Emblems for swordsmanship, magic, and culture represent the Academy's core disciplines.
The Academy is home to the chosen children of the aristocracy. A beautiful afternoon sun shines over the lush Academy gardens.
A blonde girl with green eyes looks on with a surprised expression. Prince Lucas suggests they forego formalities as fellow Academy students.
Countess Estina notes that she was the one currently speaking.
A blonde girl named Kira appears amidst a backdrop of blue flowers. A soft sneak sounds as Emily tries to quietly distance herself.
A sudden whirl startles the group as they turn toward her.
As a magical whoosh fills the air, Emily desperately hopes to be excluded from the drama. She bemoans the mess she has stumbled into. So much for a quiet school life. A gentle whoosh sounds as Emily celebrates finally arriving at the Academy.
Emily carries her large white luggage toward the grand entrance.
The massive golden gates of the Academy open for the new students.
Emily reflects on her disbelief that the inauguration ceremony has finally arrived.
She and other students excitedly compare their well-worn acceptance letters.
A staff member announces that incoming freshmen should collect their room keys.
A student receives her official gold-bordered Academy certificate.
Emily Adesio checks in with the registrar at the front desk. The registrar provides directions to the dormitory and the auditorium.
Emily wonders if she will have to share a room with another student.
A quick knock and a creak sound as she enters her new quarters.
The dormitory room stands ready with 2 elegant red canopied beds.
Emily notes that her roommate has not yet arrived. She prepares herself for the day's upcoming formal events.
Bright flowers decorate the sprawling path through the Academy grounds.
Emily's parents joyfully congratulate her on being accepted into the Academy.
Her father encourages her to focus on her magic studies for a better future. He privately reflects on the heavy burden of the high admission fees. Her mother expresses her deep gratitude to her husband for their lifestyle.
She offers to sell her wedding jewelry to fund Emily's education.
Emily overhears that the jewelry will only cover a year of tuition.
Emily grips her acceptance letter with renewed determination in the dark.
She holds her hard-won opportunity close in a moment of quiet gratitude.
A quick swish sounds as Emily changes into her official school uniform. Emily looks ready for her first day of classes at the Academy. Her school uniform features intricate embroidery and dark knee-high socks. Emily rushes down the stairs to ensure she is not late for the ceremony.
She realizes this opportunity is her only path away from an ordinary life.
She runs toward the auditorium as flower petals drift through the air.
A blonde student asks Emily if she is a fellow freshman.
The two girls quickly realize they are both in their first year.
Emily is struck by the other girl's radiant, protagonist-like appearance.
The blonde girl introduces herself to Emily as Pyrrha. Estina interrupts the two girls to greet Emily after their long absence.
She remarks that they have not seen one another since the entrance exam.
Estina casts a cold, judgmental glance toward Emily's new companion. Both Kira and Emily are baffled by the sudden shift in atmosphere. Estina insults Emily for associating with commoners despite her noble status.
Emily reacts to the harsh accusation with a look of stunned silence.
Emily glances nervously at the others, wondering what the red-haired girl could possibly mean by her previous comment. Kira questions if Estina realizes that belittling others and making discriminatory remarks are strictly forbidden by Academy rules.
Kira looks on with a soft, surprised expression. As murmurs fill the air, Estina reacts with indignant fury that a commoner would dare to speak back to her.
Emily reflects on her recent wish to be less ordinary, realizing it has come true in the most stressful way.
A tense magical energy crackles between the rivals as Emily stands caught in the middle of their brewing conflict.
The Student Code of Conduct claims that even students from eminent families receive no special treatment regardless of status.
The narrator notes that those claims are empty words, as only nobles and a single scholarship student are admitted.
A lone figure stands highlighted amongst the crowd.
Students at the Academy never give a second thought to the issue of equality between aristocrats and commoners. In the shadows, students mumble and murmur, wondering who the new girl is and why she is standing out.
Emily remains silent and visibly anxious.
Emily feels completely lost and overwhelmed, having never been caught in a social situation like this before. A silver-haired student gasps in shock at a commoner's perceived insolence, while a blue-haired girl stands beside her. Kira looks on while Estina siegs. Estina demands to know if Emily still intends to befriend Kira after witnessing such a disrespectful attitude toward nobility. Emily realizes she's being roped into a drama she wants no part of as she struggles to respond. Emily wishes for a peaceful life, while observers criticize her for being unable to pick a side in the conflict. A sudden, authoritative voice interrupts the argument to ask what is going on.
3 impeccably dressed male students appear amidst a backdrop of white flowers.
Estina immediately drops her anger and bows deeply to welcome the arrival of His Royal Highness. She introduces herself with a graceful smile, identifying herself as Estina Millet. Emily follows suit with a polite bow, expressing that it is a great honor to meet the prince. A moment of wide-eyed shock hits Emily as she realizes she is standing before royalty.
Narration confirms the newcomer is second Prince Lucas, as the first prince is too old to attend the academy. Lucas observes the scene with a calm, analytical expression. Lucas walks past the bowing girls without acknowledging Astina's formal greeting. The prince approaches Kira with a warm and disarming smile. Lucas looks at Kira with golden eyes.
Kira is struck by the prince's radiant presence.
Lucas suggests they forego formalities, as they are all fellow students at the academy.
Astina reacts to the prince's casual dismissiveness with a look of stunned disbelief.
The two girls stand before the prince as the tension lingers. Kira whirls around to accuse Astina of acting improperly by daring to argue in front of the prince.
Fury blazes as the girls continue their heated exchange while Emily frets over the worsening situation.
A sudden high-pitched scream startles the entire group. Emily desperately imagines a sudden storm striking or vanishing into thin air just to escape the social catastrophe.
A dark-haired student steps forward to address Prince Lucas, pulling the group back to reality.
The student wears a formal uniform decorated with a prominent gold crest and a red jewel. The boys note that the inauguration ceremony is about to begin and they should return to their seats. Lucas expresses regret that he could not talk longer, leaving Kira confused by his personal interest. He takes Kira's hand and delivers a courtly kiss in a shower of sparkles. Lucas reflects that the academy is a great place for scholars and offers much to be gained outside classrooms. Lucas flashes a handsome, charming smile. Kira watches the prince with an intense gaze. The prince waves and says he will see them later as he and his companions walk away. A gentle rustle sounds through the trees as the boys depart. The silver-haired girl agrees that they should also head toward the ceremony grounds. Passing students whisper about seeing the royal family and his companions, Lord Valenti and Lord Chase. The girls reflect on the brief but intense encounter. A student whispers to the group that Astina has been humiliated. Her companions offer comfort, but a furious Astina vows to make Kira pay. A smiling official welcomes everyone to the grand hall. Students applaud as the top-ranking nobles gather for the ceremony. Kira gazes out over the grand academy auditorium. Emily looks around the crowded hall with a surprised expression. Chibi Emily celebrates the long ceremony finally ending. Emily reflects on her goals while walking the grounds at sunset.
She admits that today is an exception to her busy schedule.
Emily turns around with a look of pure confusion. A student happily greets Emily and realizes they are roommates. Kira welcomes Emily into their elegant shared dormitory room. Emily predicts that even rougher days lie ahead. Kira reaches out to a blushing and flustered Emily. A formal document for a room change request appears. Emily walks down the hall, determined to request a room change. A sudden pause sounds as Emily stops walking and listens. Emily hides behind a pillar while students warn Astina about her reputation.
The girls accuse Kira of using dirty tricks on the prince.
They discuss rumors of a potential engagement between Astina and Lucas. The group vows to force Kira to leave the academy. Emily decides she will not be complicit in their bullying. A crackle sounds as Emily throws her request form into a fire. A soft sigh sounds as the paper turns to ash. Emily determines that doing nothing is the safest path. Emily is suddenly drenched by a magical water prank. A steady drip sounds as Kira rushes to Emily's aid. Emily explains she was soaked after touching a strange doorknob. Kira realizes that water magic was used against them. The girls find their classmate cowering inside the room. Sophia apologizes profusely, claiming her magic spell failed. Emily dismisses the incident as an accident to avoid more drama.
Emily asks Kira to head to class ahead of her. She holds Kira's hand and promises to return soon.
The Grand Academy hallway remains silent and empty.
Emily shivers and complains about the intense cold.
Emily realizes Astina is using the lower-ranking Sophia as a puppet. Emily reflects on why these mistakes keep happening to her. She remembers multiple times she took the hits meant for Pyrrha. A desk shake sounds as a staff member punishes them both. Emily reflects on the brazen discrimination happening at the academy. A loud achoo sounds as Emily walks through the hall.
Emily decides to visit the infirmary for some medicine.
She peeks through the door and asks if a nurse is present. The infirmary stands empty with its many beds and arches. Emily enters the room and wonders if anyone is there. Emily fixes her wet hair, glad that she is alone. A sudden startle sounds as Emily realizes someone is watching. A tall student in a dark uniform stands in the room. The dark-haired boy watches Emily with an unreadable expression. Emily hesitates as she begins to speak. Emily greets Lord Valenti, who asks for her name. Emily introduces herself and assumes he has forgotten her. Lord Valenti confirms that he remembers her clearly. Emily is mortified as he lists her past embarrassments. He notices she is soaked, but she dismisses it. He offers her a clean white handkerchief. He insists she take it despite the spring weather. Emily accepts the gift with a quiet thanks. Sunlight streams through the large arched window. Lord Valenti notes the unexpected color of her eyes. Her green eyes remind him of the springtime. A loud achoo sounds as Emily sneezes. Emily feels embarrassed while he regrets staring. He explains he is waiting for the prince's medicine. He urges her to return to her dormitory. Emily plans to find cold medicine before leaving. Soft drips sound as she walks across the floor. Emily reaches for a high shelf while he watches.
Lord Valenti grabs the medicine bottle for her.
A sudden rhythmic ba-dum sounds as they touch. He watches her with a deep, focused gaze. Emily looks back at him with mine eyes. He finally acknowledges her thanks with a nod.
Emily wonders why he has become so quiet.
Emily asks him to update them Verskar.
He agrees to handle the message for her.
Emily attributes his odd behavior to the prince's illness.
Lord Valenti stands alone amidst the infirmary's shadows.
He remains lost in thought after her departure. Emily suddenly realizes something she had forgotten.
She realizes she still has his white handkerchief.
A quick tap sounds as Emily rushes along.
She grips the fabric tightly amid the flowers.
An official voice announces a new group assignment.
A low creak sounds as Emily enters the classroom.
Kira explains the details of their new magical task.
Teacher Liam Karloff sets a strict weekly deadline.
The students protest the lack of preparation time. Liam instructs them to find their numbered partners. Emily and Kira check their assigned numbers expectantly.
Kira is devastated they were not paired together.
Kira reflects on the guilt of her earlier mishap. Emily tries to maintain a positive attitude nonetheless. Emily looks around the room for her partner.
Sophia greets Emily as her new assignment partner.
Sophia offers a second apology for the earlier incident. Emily flinches slightly as the other girl approaches. A heavy, awkward silence settles between the two. Emily asks if Sophia specializes in water magic. Sophia suggests using freshly drawn water for luck, while Emily reflects on how much luck she needs lately. Sophia recalls the many times her actions caused trouble for others, from spilled food to tripping classmates. A heavy realization dawns that she was fully aware of the consequences. A mocking ho-ho sounds as Astina suggests that if Sophia can use water magic, she should be capable of performing curses as well.
Sophia attempted to refuse by claiming her powers were too weak, but Astina had already made up her mind, leaving the girl to toil over cursed tasks late into the night.
Sophia reflects on how she never intended to spend her time at the academy writing cursed letters. However, she is bound by the fact that her family's business relies entirely on the support of Count Millet.
Sophia smiles brightly and agrees to Emily's suggestion.
Chibi Emily is stunned when Sophia unexpectedly volunteers to handle the entire workload on her own.
Emily lets out a weary sigh.
A sharp, focused gaze reflects intensity.
Emily acknowledges that she might have been forced into the same position if she were caught in Astina's manipulative grasp.
She decides that apologies are unnecessary for actions done under duress, especially since there is no promise they won't happen again.
A somber mood hangs down. Distant chatter fills the school hair. Someone asks about the progress of their group project. Kira enthusiastically describes her plan to submit powerful fire magic for the assignment while enjoying her lunch with Emily. Emily is impressed by the plan. Kira imagines the attention her fire magic will garner, while Emily notes they are submitting Sophia's water magic.
Kira curiously asks if Emily has impressive magic to share as well.
Emily ponders her own abilities, noting she can handle both wind and light magic.
She considers whether combining her skills would be a popular choice.
The focus shifts to commercial magic. History shows that the trend is moving toward magic that provides everyday convenience, such as enchanted letters or teleportation. Emily thinks that creating commercial magic is difficult because it requires intricate spells and significant financial backing.
A soft sounds as Emily laments her lack of both time and money.
As she watches Kira eat, she wonders if her friend truly believes she can succeed. White lilies bloom near the conservatory. An authoritative voice interrupts their walk to ask if Kira is out on her daily stroll. Prince Lucas offers a charming smile. The girls offer a formal bow, but a happy ha-ha sounds as Lucas asks them to dispense with the formalities and treat him like any other student. With a thoughtful Lucas admits that his presence is intentional rather than a chance encounter. Kira is taken aback when the prince reveals he has something to ask her specifically. He brings up the upcoming welcome party for the freshmen. In a moment of high drama, Lucas asks Kira if she will attend the party as his date. The girls are frozen in shock. Lucas gives a decisive nod to confirm his surprising invitation. He informs Kira that he will be sending a servant with items for the party shortly. He gazes into her eyes and expresses his hope that the items will be to her liking. A quick ping sounds in Separtus. Lucas adds that he hopes Emily will accompany Kira to the party, and a flustered Emily quickly agrees. Emily remains stunned by the prince. Lucas reflects on the special bond of friendship shared between the two girls. Chibi Emily is overwhelmed by the awkwardness and the sudden, unwanted attention. The girls offer their thanks as they prepare to part ways. The girls bow as they depart. A sudden, quiet pause sounding clearly. He glances back with mysterious eyes. He departs amid a floral trail. Emily watches him with quiet contemplation. A clean handkerchief dries in the gentle breeze against a bright sky. A sudden rhythmic badum sounds as Chibi Emily realizes she left the laundered fabric in her room. A sudden, quiet pause sounding clearly as the dark-haired boy looks away with a troubled expression. He appears deeply unsettled by his own thoughts as he looks down. Emily watches the student walk away into the distance. She stands alone and stunned amidst a field of white flowers. Emily covers her mouth in a moment of blushing realization.
A sharp click sounds as Emily stands before a heavy gold door.
Emily laments the fact that she missed her chance to return the item. She considers if a small gift is necessary to accompany the return.
Emily worries that a gift might be misconstrued as a romantic gesture. She reflects on the vast social gap between their noble families.
Chibi Emily acknowledges that some goals are simply out of reach.
Valentis Peer notes his striking appearance while he remains completely oblivious. Emily focuses her attention on the task at hand.
She struggles to decide which of her 2 dresses to wear.
Emily compares a trendy new dress with an older, altered heirloom from her mother. She remains conflicted about making the right choice.
A quick click sounds as Kira enters the room while Emily continues her search.
Kira notes the changing season as she dries her hair. The girls discuss Kira's morning activity and her resulting physical fatigue.
A happy ha-ha sounds as Kira leaves to take a shower.
A dull clack sounds as Emily acknowledges her friend's diligent nature.
Kira watches curiously as Emily begins writing on her registration form. Emily asks if her friend shares her interest in learning commercial magic.
A soft flop sounds as Kira rejects the idea and falls onto the bed. Kira clarifies that she only cares for ultra-powerful magic.
Kira explains her ambitious desire to master professional combat magic.
She expresses a deep need for absolute self-protection. Emily notes that such power is typically only found within the military. Soft drips sound as Emily considers the destructive nature of such magic.
A sudden blaze sounds as Emily's overactive imagination takes a dark, violent turn.
Emily refocuses on choosing silver-haired Liam Karloff's class for herself. She reflects on the teacher's impressive professional reputation and workload. Emily feels a wave of fear from the instructor's stern presence. A soft chirp sounds as a new day breaks over the academy towers.
Emily laments the difficulty of finding a quiet moment to meet.
She reflects on how their different departments and school years keep them apart. Valenti remains at the prince's side during their daily walks. Distant chatter fills the air in the crowded school grounds. A weary sigh sounds as Emily considers the difficulty of returning the handkerchief. A sharp click sounds as Emily enters the office to submit her form.
Emily is surprised by the unexpected beauty of a nearby courtyard.
She notes the peacefulness of the secluded area near the administration building. A soft plop sounds as Emily takes a seat on a stone ledge. A gentle whoosh sounds as she closes her eyes to enjoy the breeze. Emily spots a familiar figure standing alone near a fountain. She freezes as she recognizes the dark-haired student across the garden.
Emily calls out in surprise as she realizes she has finally found him.
A sudden, quiet pause sounding clearly as Valenti stops, while Emily worries she shouted. He approaches with a purposeful stride, standing. Dark-haired Lord Valenti appears weary and damp. The student calls out to Miss Emily.
Emily offers a nervous greeting to Lord Valenti.
The two students meet in the quiet courtyard. A heavy silence falls over Lord Valenti as he looks there. Emily is taken by a sudden realization as she begins a quick rummage through her belongings. She presents the white handkerchief he previously lent her and notes that she is returning it. Valenti politely notes that it was his pleasure to help her.
Emily thinks his watercolored eyes are absolutely beautiful.
Lord Valenti offers a quiet glance as he looks directly at her. Emily flinches in surprise at his sudden proximity. A soft tap sounds as he rests his hand on the stone ledge. Lord Valenti leans in close, causing Emily to let out a soft sound of surprise. She feels her composure begin to falter as he moves toward her. Emily is overwhelmed by how close he is standing.
Valenti notes that she is too kind and didn't need to return the item.
A flustered Emily stammers through her gratitude and confusion. She explains she only called him over to return the handkerchief before preparing to depart. As she begins to rush away, Valenti asks for a moment while she offers her final thanks. Emily makes a quick exit with a rhythmic step-step sound air. Chibi Emily admits it is difficult to look at him because he is so handsome and regrets her rude interruption. She offers one last glance back at him. Emily looks away with a troubled expression. Valenti stands alone holding the returned fabric. He reflects on how he previously only viewed her as the friend of the girl the prince favored. He recalls her radiant, sparkling appearance in the garden.
The memory of her calling his name lingers in his mind.
Perspiration drips down Lord Valenti's face.
He makes a sudden turn as he moves away from the courtyard.
He grips the white fabric tightly in his hand.
A red-haired student greets Eden and asks where he has been hiding.
The friend teases Eden about his wet, manly appearance while Eden tells him to cut it out. The friend asks why Eden is going to class wet and offers his own handkerchief since Eden won't use the one he is currently holding. The friend is shocked to see Eden tuck the handkerchief away and realizes he is staying wet on purpose. The red-haired boy jokes that Eden's fan service is enough to make students drop their swords on their feet. The friend performs a quick rummage and produces a different cloth with a celebratory ta-da sounding. Eden lets out a confused sound as he reaches out to grab the cloth. Eden uses the borrowed cloth with a quick wipe sounding, while his friend notes he just didn't want to dirty the other one. Eden gives it a quick toss back, and his friend complains that he should wash it before returning it.
A heavy gold door closes with a loud shut sounding.
Emily leans against the door with a rapid but dumb sounding as her heart races. She gives her face a quick slap sounding and tells herself to get it together.
She recalls visiting her mother's family, where her relatives are famous for their looks, while she and her father feel like plain ducks among swans.
Despite her relatives calling her adorable, Emily thinks she should be used to being the average one in the family.
She cannot shake the image of Valenti's handsome face. She reflects on the intensity of their recent meeting.
Emily notes there are many beautiful people like Kira, but her thoughts trail off.
A sharp knock-knock sounds as Emily wonders who could be visiting her room at such a late hour.
Emily is surprised as a messenger announces they have brought gifts from the second prince. Emily opens the door to admit several maids who arrive carrying massive, sparkling gift boxes as a polite speech bubble invites them to enter.
Emily is left in awe by a sudden scurry, place, bow, and dash sounding as the efficient servants deliver the items and quickly depart, leading her to reflect on how impressive the prince's staff is.
As she stands before the stacked boxes, Emily realizes that these must be the ball gown and items the second prince promised to send for Kira.
A sudden, radiant flash sounding erupts from the gifts, causing Emily to exclaim in shock as she wonders what is happening.
A letter with a prominent red wax seal floats gracefully through the air, and Emily marvels at how such magic is used to deliver messages.
A sudden light flap sounding occurs as Emily catches the paper and reads it with confusion, wondering if she has been summoned to the faculty office for a loss of conduct points before a realization strikes her.
A decorative card reveals that the correspondence has been sent from Liam Karloff. Chibi Emily lets out a joyous hooray, sounding as she learns she has been approved for the commercial magic class, and despite her lack of preparation for tomorrow's start, she is overwhelmed with excitement.
A sudden, sharp click sounding echoes as Kira enters the room, and Emily looks up from her letter in wonder at the massive delivery.
Kira is taken aback by the towering stack of boxes and asks Emily what they are for.
Emily explains that the second prince sent the gifts specifically for Kira and encourages her to open them, while a surprised Kira realizes what they must contain.
A nervous gulp and glance sounding follow as Kira reaches out to touch the first large ribboned box. Kira lets out a soft woo as she opens the box to reveal a stunning display of luxury. The girls are awestruck by the contents, which include a golden tiara, fine jewelry, elegant gloves, and white heels. Kira stands completely frozen as she admits the items are truly incredible. Emily gazes at her friend with a soft, appreciative expression.
Emily tells Kira that the items will suit her perfectly.
Kira lets out a happy ha-ha sounding as she looks at her friend with a bright smile. A cheerful ha-ha sounding continues as the girls share a playful moment, with Kira placing the crown on Emily and noting it looks good on her as well. Night descends upon the quiet academy towers. A rhythmic but dumb sounding fills the air as Emily lies awake in bed, too excited to sleep after seeing the royal jewels in person. A single green eye reflects the faint moonlight. A sudden turn sounding follows as she shifts under the covers in the dark room. Vivid blue flowers bloom across the scene in a moment of quiet reflection. Her eye remains wide and thoughtful in the shadows. A mysterious, dark-haired figure appears surrounded by deep red flowers.
A lingering thought wonders about the specific role a girl named Astina plays within the unfolding story.
A sudden, quick turn sounding occurs as Emily pulls the blankets tight and tells herself no.
She reflects on the fact that her current life is a reality rather than a fairy tale. A weary yawn sounding follows as Emily walks down the hallway the next morning, lamenting how early her new class begins.
Emily stops in sudden, wide-eyed surprise.
She spots Kira outside and notes with a soft huff and puff sounding that her friend is already on another run, marveling at her dedication. Chibi Emily makes a quick dash sounding toward her classroom. A sudden eek and hiccup sounding erupt as Emily enters the room, startling a dark-haired student who thinks the situation feels all too familiar. With a nervous hiccup sounding, the dark-haired girl offers a polite but flustered good morning greeting to Emily. A sudden heavy scrape sounding follows as the two students take their seats in an atmosphere filled with awkward and nervous tension. The dark-haired student pauses in quiet hesitation. Emily looks at her with a questioning expression. The dark-haired girl asks if it is Emily's first day since she hasn't seen her before, and Emily confirms she only registered yesterday. The student realizes the situation and asks if Emily has the textbook yet, to which Emily admits she hasn't had the chance to buy one. A sudden, tight squeeze sounding follows as the dark-haired girl grips her desk and begins to ask a question. The girl suddenly shouts out an invitation for Emily to sit with her, explaining that Emily will need the book because Professor Karloff is famously strict. A happy ha-ha sounding follows as the girl thanks Emily for agreeing, while a confused chibi Emily reflects on how their roles seem to have been reversed.
A soft, rhythmic top sounding is heard against the wooden dusk. A sudden, quick flip sounding follows as the girl opens the book, leaving Emily to wonder if her seatmate can even see the pages from such a distance. Chibi Emily decides to simply enjoy the clear view of the shared book and the friendly gesture.
Golden trophies stand gleaming in the well-lit classroom.
Professor Liam Karloff begins his lecture by stating that in everyday magic, it is crucial for students to discover their own unique ratios, directing them toward a specific lantern.
He explains that the lantern balances electric, dynamic, and air magic to control light and stability, noting that these proprietary formulas become a wizard's commercial brand and are never shared.
A continuous scribble sounding accompanies the lecture as the professor explains that students will learn to create a perfect balance with their mana, emphasizing that spell strength is not the most important factor.
Professor Liam Karloff continues his lecture with a rhythmic drone.
An eager Emily diligently takes notes as a continuous scribble sounding fills the air.
With a sudden, sharp snap sounding, the professor closes his book and announces they will cover mana precision next class.
As students depart, Emily reflects that the class was even more engaging than she anticipated.
She stands amidst a blooming garden, marveling at how interesting the lecture turned out to be.
The dark-haired girl wakes up groggily as Emily returns the book, leading her to realize the student only shared it so she could nap. The classmate asks if Emily would like to sit together during their next session if well.
With a nervous gulp sounding, the blue-eyed girl waits expectantly for a response.
Emily pauses for a moment of quiet consideration.
Emily agrees, prompting a surprised and grateful exclamation from the girl. The student becomes visibly overwhelmed with joy, while Emily privately feels her enthusiastic reaction is a bit much.
The girl waves a cheerful goodbye, leaving a slightly uncomfortable Emily to wave back as they part ways.
Walking past the Grand Conservatory, Emily reflects on how unique her new acquaintances, including the girl named Sophia, truly are.
She shields her eyes from the bright sun, noting how pleasant the day has become.
She observes that summer is fast approaching while the warm light filters through her hair. Emily suddenly stops in surprise as she passes a tall, dark-haired man in the hallway.
She offers a wide-eyed, questioning look over her shoulder.
The man stops and looks back at her with equal intensity.
Emily quickly turns away, blushing as she tells herself his face is simply too unforgettable. The man watches her walk away in a moment of silent contemplation. A sudden heavy whack sounding startles the man as his friend teases him for being so distracted all day.
He remains silent and flustered while his friend continues to grin.
Emily decides to relax under a shady tree, enjoying the nostalgic feeling of the pleasant weather.
The scene shifts to a childhood memory of Emily playing in a tree while her mother calls her for a snack.
With a quick flip sounding, Emily reviews her notes and determines to work hard on her mana management.
A quiet scribble sounding follows as she considers the possibility of recording sounds instead of writing music.
Perched on a high branch, she imagines the wealth she could acquire by inventing voice recording magic. Her eyes blink slowly as the warm sunlight begins to make her drowsy.
She eventually succumbs to exhaustion and closes her eyes.
A soft rustle sounding echoes through the leaves as Emily falls into a deep sleep.
The dark-haired man stands nearby, his gaze fixed on something above. He looks up at the sleeping girl with a serious expression. He clenches his hand tightly as he observes her vulnerable state. After a moment of hesitation, he begins to walk away before coming to a sudden halt. Emily's notebook and pen sit precariously on the edge of the branch. Emily's eyes flutter open in surprise as she begins to wake. With a tired rub sounding, she laments falling asleep outside and decides she should have gone to her room.
A quick jog sounding follows as she jumps down and starts to move.
She realizes with a start that she cannot be late for her divinity class. Emily makes a sudden quick dash sounding as she hurries across the academy grounds. A sharp gasp sounding escapes the dark-haired man as he watches her bout.
Perspiration drips down his face as he slumps against the tree with a heavy badum sounding.
He recalls offering a quiet glance at the girl while she was fast asleep. A gentle place sounding follows as he had carefully reached out toward her foot. With a rhythmic badum sounding, he reflects on the moment he hesitated to touch her. He remembers looking at her with a conflicted expression while she remained oblivious. He tells himself that such meddling is impolite as a sudden thud sounding brings him back to the present. He looks down to find one of Emily's shoes lying abandoned in the grass. He stares at the lost footwear with a thoughtful expression.
With a sudden, firm grasp sounding, he picks up the shoe while looking up at the empty branch.
Emily flinches in sudden, nervous tension as a rhythmic sprint sounding marks a quick departure. A sudden tight squeeze sounding follows as Lord Valenti grips his head in visible frustration. Emily closes her eyes in quiet hesitation.
Lord Valenti clenches his fist with a heavy, frustrated huff sounding.
Standing beneath a blossoming tree, Lord Valenti resolves to be direct and say what he needs to. Sunlight filters through the grand arches of the Academy architecture. A soft, rhythmic top sounding follows as Emily and Kira walk together, with Emily lamenting her poorly timed nap. A sudden oof sounding follows as Emily admits to some stiffness while Kira expresses her concern.
Kira wonders if Emily's classes are finished for the day. Kira suggests her friend take some rest and promises to bring medicine later.
Emily gratefully thanks Kira while privately admiring her friend's resilience and dedication.
A rhythmic step sounding accompanies Kira as she departs, noting the beauty of the day.
Emily reflects that she should have left much sooner.
The second prince appears amidst the garden, drawing stares and murmurs from the crowd. A happy ha-ha sounding follows as the prince greets the girls and asks Kira about the gifts he sent.
Blue flowers frame the scene as the prince inquires if the items were to Kira's liking.
Kira offers her sincere thanks, appearing slightly overwhelmed by the gesture.
The prince offers a warm smile, insisting that she deserves nothing less.
A gentle touch signals a shift in the conversation between the prince and Kira. A sudden creep sounding follows as Emily decides to use the distraction to slip away unnoticed.
Emily stops in sudden, wide-eyed confusion.
A heavy, dull sounding startles Emily as a dark-haired figure looms over her. A sudden, heavy, dun sounding follows as Lord Valenti confronts Emily with an intense gaze.
Emily is shocked by Lord Valenti's sudden presence and his incredibly serious expression.
A sudden hiss sounding plays in Emily's memory as she worries she offended him, only for Valenti to ask about her weekend plans. Lord Valenti firmly asks to accompany Emily on her trip downtown.
Emily lets out a shocked exclamation at the unexpected request.
An intense stare is shared as Emily nervously confirms she heard him the first time.
A rhythmic stride sounding follows as he insists on coming along, while a panicked Emily spins away and declines.
Emily is left bewildered by his strange behavior, while Lord Valenti looks visibly dejected.
Emily wonders about the state of the others in the garden.
The prince and Kira appear to have finished their exchange as they part ways.
Emily notes with amusement that Lord Chase appears just as shocked as she is.
With a sudden quick dash sounding, Emily bows and makes a hasty exit.
Emily catches up to Kira, hiding her encounter behind a claim of simple exhaustion.
Lord Chase and Lord Valenti follow the prince as they walk away.
A sharp glare is shared between the two men as they walk.
A sudden quick whip and slide sounding follow as Chase attempts to reach out toward Valenti.
A sudden whoosh sounding fills the air as Lord Chase yells at Valenti for his terrifyingly abrupt approach.
Lord Chase continues to berate Valenti, pointing out that his behavior looked more like an attack than a date invitation.
The accusation that he was asking her on a date hangs in the air. A sudden sharp whip sounding follows as Lord Chase admits he feared an assassination attempt. Valenti dryly asks if that fear is why Chase reached for his sword.
A soft quiver sounding follows as a chibi Lord Chase complains about being made to look like a fool.
Lord Chase suggests a more verbal approach for the next confession, while Valenti feigns total ignorance.
The Grand Academy fountain stands gleaming in the afternoon light.
A rhythmic step sounding echoes as someone moves through the halls. Emily stands with arms wide, basking in the pleasant weather.
A happy bounce sounding follows as Emily celebrates having a relaxing Friday with only one class. A rhythmic rummage and rustle sounding fills the room as Emily searches her trunk for a sundress to beat the heat.
Emily's hand makes a sudden, firm grasp sounding.
She happily announces her departure for the city.
Trees stand tall before a Grand Academy building.
Emily reflects on the travel distance and portal inconvenience. She walks along a sunlit garden stone path.
Her green eyes widen in sudden surprise. Grand arches stand tall under the afternoon sun.
A rhythmic whir sounding starts as Emily registers. The staff confirms her slot and Emily offers thanks. A sudden heavy gulp sounding precedes her entry. With a sharp ping and flash sounding, she teleports.
Surprised wide eyes reflect the magical portal below.
She marvels at the expansive view of the town. A sudden quick whoosh sounding marks her arrival. Vendors offer fruit, leather, and fresh bread. Emily moves through the busy market crowd. Local houses bask in the warm, bright sunlight. Emily enjoys sweets not found at the Academy.
She locates the glove store as planned.
A sudden sharp creak and jingle sounding follows.
Emily peeks inside while finishing her smack.
A red-haired shopkeeper welcomes her inside warmly.
Emily requests white velvet gloves for next Monday.
The shopkeeper considers the request with pensive interest. She suggests lace gloves instead of velvet ones.
Emily worries about the high price of lace.
The shopkeeper explains current affordable fashion trends.
Emily describes her formal navy blue dress.
The shopkeeper recommends a versatile chiffon shawl.
Emily realizes the shawl fits within her budget. A sudden quick dash sounding follows as she works. She offers a free olive bow as a gift. A sudden slam sounding leaves Emily quite dazed. Lord Chase begins a conversation in the library. He asks Lord Valenti about his feelings for Emily. He mentions Valenti's date invitation to her.
Chase recalls Valenti's interest in her weekend plans.
Lord Chase is left in a confused silence.
Valenti admits a simple desire for her company.
Chase wonders if Valenti is secretly an idiot.
He recalls Valenti's perfect academic grade record.
A sudden flip sounding marks the book handling. The library remains quiet as they continue jogging. Chase laments Valenti's total lack of self-awareness. A quick scratch sounding follows his lingering confusion. Chase anticipates entertainment from Valenti's first crush. A sudden whoosh sounding accompanies Emily's return.
She reflects on the shopkeeper's incredible persuasion skills.
She celebrates getting more items for less money. A sudden heavy step sounding startles her arrival.
Lord Valenti offers a calm greeting as blue flowers bloom in the background.
Lord Valenti calls out to Emily as she walks with several shopping bags.
Lord Valenti asks about her outing while Emily nervously greets him, privately noting how dressed up he is.
Lord Valenti asks if she is returning to her dorm, and a flustered Emily confirms her arrival back on campus.
Emily recalls previously telling him she would go alone, worrying that running into him now is terribly embarrassing.
Lord Valenti notes she had a nice time, while Emily remains confused by his inscrutable expression.
Emily describes the wonderful energy of the city, while Valenti asks if she visited any local cafes.
Emily admits she lacked the funds for cafes, noticing that Valenti seems very familiar with the city area.
Valenti mentions his frequent visits over the last 2 years and offers to carry her shopping bags.
Emily offers a silent, awkward smile as she processes his request.
Emily walks beside him, wondering why he is staying so close to her.
Valenti asks if she intended to teleport, but Emily explains she was just heading to the academy.
Emily flinches as she mentions his fancy clothes, leading a worried Valenti to ask if he looks bad. Emily clarifies that he simply looks like he is going somewhere important, and a relieved Valenti offers thanks.
Lord Valenti ponders what he should wear next, while a confused Emily gives a simple response.
A rhythmic step sounding follows as they continue their walk through the grounds. Another rhythmic step sounding accompanies them as Emily looks at him with uncertainty.
Emily stops and stands in quiet, baffled silence.
Emily worries about his extreme closeness just as Valenti asks about her favorite weekend activities.
Emily mentions she enjoys reading and walking, feeling increasingly nervous as he continues to stand near her.
A sudden, sharp thud sounding occurs as Emily's shoe strikes a large stone in the path.
Valenti asks if she is uncomfortable, while Emily reacts with a startled, nervous expression. Valenti offers again to carry her bags, though Emily insists that she is fine.
A soft drip sounding marks the arrival of rain as Emily reflects on his strange sense of distance.
A rhythmic drip sounding continues as more rain begins to fall onto Emily's face.
A heavy, sudden shah sounding fills the air as a downpour begins, catching them both by surprise.
A sudden, quick whirl sounding follows as Valenti swiftly removes his white pout.
Valenti uses his coat to shield Emily from the heavy falling rain.
Valenti leans in close and directs Emily toward a nearby sheltered area.
A loud, continuous shah sounding accompanies them as they hurry across the grounds for cover.
With a sudden grip sounding, Emily holds onto him as Valenti asks if she is all right.
A sudden, firm grab sounding follows as Emily realizes with a start that her new gloves are at risk.
Heavy rain pours down onto the shopping box Emily is holding.
Emily laments that her new shawl is getting wet in the downpour.
Valenti warns that the wet shawl will ruin her other items, leaving an anxious Emily unsure of what to do.
A sudden shake sounding follows as Valenti removes his black vest while Emily worries about her purchases. Valenti offers his water-resistant vest to protect her bags, though Emily is shocked by the garment's high cost. A gentle rap sounding follows as Valenti covers her bags and suggests staying there until the rain stops.
With a quiet grip sounding, Emily thanks him for being so kind and helpful.
The garden remains empty as the rain continues to fall around the quiet, secluded gazebo.
Emily looks up at Valenti as they wait together under the shelter.
A sudden shake sounding follows as Valenti spreads a cloth and asks if she would like to sit.
Valenti tells Emily to move closer into the shelter so she doesn't get soaked by the rain.
Emily and Valenti sit together in the quiet gazebo watching the rainfall.
Valenti offers a quiet glance at Emily as she looks out at the wet garden flowers.
Emily's green eye reflects the soft light of the rainy afternoon.
A sudden shiver sounding follows as Emily closes her eyes against the damp, cold air.
A gentle shield sounding follows as Valenti places his hand over her head and asks if she is okay.
Raindrops fall past a hand held out to test the intensity of the storm.
Emily looks up in surprise at the hand shielding her from the falling rain.
Lord Valenti begins to apologize for the awkward tension as the rain persists around them.
Emily reacts with a start, her green eyes wide in surprise as she touches her face.
A sudden quick turn sounding follows as a flustered Valenti looks away from her, his face flushing red.
He remains caught in a moment of pensive silence while the rain continues to fall.
He recalls a recent conversation with Lord Chase while looking out into the damp garden. The fine details of his elegant black attire are briefly highlighted against the blue background.
Valenti struggles to regain his composure as he remains deep in thought.
A soft drip and drop sounding accompany the rain stopping as the garden begins to shine under the sun.
They sit together in quiet, reflective silence under the shelter of the gazebo.
Lord Valenti asks if they should head back and offers to carry her heavy shopping bags.
Emily offers a polite thank you as they walk together along the sunlit garden path.
The Grand Academy building stands tall under the clear, bright afternoon sky.
A sudden, heavy ugh sounding follows as Emily steps onto the cool bathroom floor in her dorm. She stands wrapped in a towel, her expression full of lingering stress from the afternoon.
She reflects on how the day's events have become a confusing and emotional blur.
Emily remembers the moment they reached her room and she returned his coat with a polite thank you.
A sudden, heavy, dun sounding accompanies her realization that she still has his other items. A soft sigh sounding follows as Chibi Emily realizes she accidentally kept his expensive vest as well. A sudden, soft puff sounding follows as she exhales while staring at her reflection.
A sudden, sharp creak and turn sounding follows as she handles the bathroom door.
A sudden, quick fwish sounding fills the room as she moves about preparing for the evening.
Her green eye reflects her ongoing surprise and confusion over her encounter with Valenti.
She continues her evening routine, scrubbing her shoulder while lost in her thoughts.
Beautiful white flowers bloom as the scene transitions back to her main room.
Emily's attention is suddenly caught by a start as someone enters her living space.
Kira enters and excitedly asks about Emily's shopping trip, while Emily confirms she enjoyed the city. They admire the lovely olive ribbon nestled in its box, noting how cute it looks.
Kira enthusiastically assures Emily that the new items will look wonderful on her.
A sudden, quick dash sounding follows as Chibi Emily rushes out to drop off her laundry.
Kira is left alone and startled to find men's clothing mixed in with Emily's belongings.
Emily runs down the academy hall while clutching her laundry basket tightly.
She calls out desperately for the laundry maid to wait just a moment longer. She successfully hands over the basket and thanks the maid for her patience. Emily is thankful she managed to turn in the wet clothes before they could be permanently stained.
Lush yellow flowers signal another shift in the narrative focus.
Emily pauses as if recalling a specific, poignant moment from earlier in the day. She looks out her window at the peaceful garden, remembering the rain. A sudden rhythmic step sounding echoes as the memory of the gazebo returns. A sudden soft huh sounding follows Valenti's surprise as the rain continues to pour down. They both react with startled silence as they realize the proximity of their situation. A sudden sharp shift sounding follows as they awkwardly try to create space in the small shelter. Emily worries that Valenti might catch a cold from being so close to the damp, chilly air.
Valenti calls out to her in a soft, tentative voice as they wait together.
He gestures toward the ground between them, offering a place for her to sit more comfortably.
Valenti admits that he is feeling quite cold due to the relentless rainfall.
Emily tries to give back his coat, but he insists she keep it to stay warm.
A sudden quick turn sounding follows as Emily blushes deeply and looks away.
A soft, rhythmic ba-dum sounding fills the air as Valenti asks if he may sit closer.
A soft rhythmic ba-doom sounding continues as they sit side by side amidst a bed of flowers. A soft rhythmic ba-dum sounding follows as golden light glows over the peaceful garden gazebo.
Someone calls out to Miss Emily from the lush green trees.
Sophia waves enthusiastically while Emily greets her with a happy smile.
They marvel at the beautiful hidden lake while walking toward a picnic blanket. A sudden soft pat sounding follows as Sophia invites Emily to sit on the blanket.
The clear blue lake water sparkles under the afternoon sun.
They enjoy the view while Emily notes how the cool breeze makes it even better.
A sudden, quick rustle sounding occurs as Sophia prepares to show off her water magic.
Sophia presents a large blue gem that requires Emily's magic to be complete. Sophia looks a bit embarrassed while admitting that Emily's part of the task is harder. Emily focuses on the glowing gem and promises to get the proportions right.
A sudden, quick flip sounding repeats as Emily consults her notebook for the magic formula.
A sudden, low whir sounding accompanies Emily's intense concentration as she begins the spell.
Bright light reflects off the sparkling surface of the blue wire.
A sudden sharp jolt sounding follows as Emily reacts to the surge of magical energy.
A sudden resonant shing sounding fills the air as a bright light envelops them both.
The intense blue light of the spell continues to glow around the two calls.
Sparkling magic particles surround Emily as she completes the difficult task.
Emily narrows her eyes in deep concentration to finish the spell.
The blue magic gem sparkles and shines with a new, vibrant brilliance. Sophia is amazed by the gorgeous color, while Emily feels relieved the formula worked.
Sophia praises Emily's natural talent for magic, while Emily remains humble about her skills.
Emily admits she has a small mana reserve and once doubted her ability to become a witch.
Close-up of Emily's green eye.
Emily recalls being told that the strength of a spell is not what is important.
They bond over their shared favorite class after a funny memory of Sophia sleeping.
Sophia mentions her family's interest in magic items developed with Count Millet's funding.
They discuss the trendy aromatic magic stones that manipulate the fragrance of the air.
Sophia explains her merchant family background and how they help teach her magic.
Emily notes that Sophia discovered her aptitude early and asks about her future products.
Sophia describes her interest in developing magic stones for cleaning and purification.
Emily wonders if many versions of those items already exist in the market.
Sophia explains that product registration ensures no two people create the exact same thing.
Sophia looks very proud of the knowledge she has picked up about business.
Emily considers whether she should pursue audio recording magic for her own field.
They discuss the formulas for sound amplification and reinforcement magic.
Sophia suggests a creative idea for a stone that can capture monster cries. Emily worries about the dangers of studying monster ecology for such an idea. A sudden low groan sounding follows as they realize how expensive and dangerous that project would be. With a sudden, heavy plop sounding, a frustrated Sophia collapses onto the picnic blanket.
Emily reassures her that the conversation has been helpful for her own fretting.
Sophia stands alone in a hallway as she recalls a difficult moment from her past.
A sudden, soft sigh sounding follows as a red-haired woman calls Sophia's magic useless.
Emily expresses her sincere gratitude for Sophia's help and the motivation she provided. Sophia remembers the lunch she packed and reaches for the wicker basket.
Sophia presents some cute sandwiches and offers to share them for lunch.
Emily thanks her and they enjoy their meal together amidst the flowers.
They discuss the upcoming welcome party and make plans to visit a macaron shop later.
Bright yellow flowers decorate the scene as time passes by quickly.
A sudden, light chirp sounding fills the air near the Grand Academy building.
A sudden, sharp click sounding follows as a hand opens the ornate double doors.
Emily thanks the laundry maid for her help.
She promises to return his other items later.
Emily happily mentions she has finished the laundry.
She proudly shows off her borrowed curl iron.
A sudden, sharp hiss sounding follows as they test the heat of the iron.
Emily carefully wraps a lock of hair around the silver tool. A sudden, quick slide sounding follows as the iron glides through her hair.
Emily admits that the ancient hair tool looks like a scary contraption. She recalls a disastrous attempt to style her cousin's hair when they were younger. A sudden, sharp snap and hiss sounding follows as the cousin's hair catches fire.
Emily is surprised her cousin wasn't more angry after the incident.
A sudden, soft tumble sounding follows as Emily finishes her hair. Emily asks Kira for assistance with her formal dress.
A sudden, heavy shudder sounding follows as Emily worries about awkward group entrances.
Chibi Emily begins to drool while imagining the party's finger food.
Kira declares that Emily is finally all set. Sunlight catches the fine strands of Emily's golden hair.
Emily asks for Kira's opinion on her stunning blue ball gown.
A sudden, quick clap and clap sounding follows as a delighted Kira praises her. A sudden, soft, bashful sounding follows as Emily feels relieved her outfit works.
She giggles as she prepares to head to the event.
The Academy building glows under a warm orange sunset. Delicate yellow flowers mark The grand ballroom is filled with golden light and sparkling decorations.
A bright bird flies past a cluster of yellow flowers. Emily is overwhelmed by the incredible scale of the party. The decorations are described as truly incredible.
A sudden, soft twinkle sounding follows as Emily explores the venue.
The floral arrangements are praised for being so beautiful.
A sudden, soft twinkle sounding follows as Emily's eyes land on the buffet.
A delicious spread of pastries and desserts awaits the guests. Emily admires the savory pastries and rose-flavored cupcakes. She happily samples the party snacks with a satisfied smile. A sudden, low booming sounding follows as a musician plays the cello.
Emily notices that the other guests are beginning to arrive.
The guests marvel at the beauty of the ballroom.
Astina and Miss Lily discuss the fairy-like garden theme of the party.
Emily notes that the red dress is likely covered in expensive ruby powder.
She worries about the cost of potential spills near such luxury. A sudden, sharp whirl sounding follows as a silver-haired girl turns around.
A close-up reveals the silver-haired girl's piercing golden eyes.
Glowing lamps illuminate the ornate details of the ballroom walls.
A sudden, sharp pull sounding follows as Emily opens the balcony curtains.
She reacts with surprise to find Lord Valenti already there.
They are both startled by the sudden encounter.
A sudden, soft, awkward sounding follows as Valenti explains he needed some air. A sudden, rhythmic ba-dum sounding follows as he compliments her look.
Emily looks away as the rhythmic ba-dum sounding continues.
Valenti asks if she is cold and offers to use warming magic.
A sudden, quick slide sounding follows as Valenti moves closer to her.
Emily looks up in confusion as she encounters Lord Valenti's back in the hallway.
Chibi Emily wonders what she was thinking as she notices a silhouette through the window.
A sudden, rhythmic clop sounding follows as vibrant yellow flowers are displayed at the ball.
The prince and Lady Kira make their grand entrance together at the god.
Radiant yellow flowers fill the frame under a warm light. The crowd reacts with sudden, amazed wow and whoa soundings at the arrival of the couple.
Someone asks in a soft whisper sounding if Miss Astina is feeling okay.
A sudden, sharp shake and tremble sounding follows as Astina's gloved hand clenches in distress.
Emily watches the gathering as guests discuss the recent developments.
Lily comforts Astina while Emily realizes the awkwardness of the situation as the others agree it is not Astina's fault.
Emily decides to avoid the ballroom and asks Valenti if she can hide behind him with a sudden, soft shh sounding.
Lord Valenti agrees to let her hide behind his broad shoulders.
Elegant details of Emily's lace dress and jewelry are highlighted. Valenti looks down at her with a flustered and blushing expression.
A sudden, rhythmic ba-dum sounding and a sharp clench sounding follow as Valenti's gloved fist tightens.
A sudden, quick whip sounding follows as Valenti turns his head away.
Emily apologizes to him and explains that she simply does not want to get caught up in the drama.
Grand golden chandeliers illuminate the opulent ballroom ceiling.
A sudden, formal bow sounding follows as Lily greets the prince.
Lily offers a soft and polite smile while engaging with the royal couple.
A sudden, light ha-ha sounding follows as the prince greets Lily and mentions how busy everyone is with their learning. Lily reflects on their shared childhood and how quickly the time has passed.
They reminisce about playing together with plushies before their academic departments separated them.
The prince and Kira stand together as a perfect pair while Lily watches from the foreground. A sudden, quick slide sounding follows as Lily explains how she and Kira grew close recently. The prince expresses a warm interest in getting to know Kira better himself.
Lily suggests that they should all have lunch together whenever Kira is available.
Kira looks on with a calm, polite, and slightly thoughtful expression. Lily's golden eyes reflect her pleasant mood and kind intentions. A sudden quick turn sounding follows as Lily prepares to walk away from the couple. The prince remains caught in a moment of pensive silence while watching her depart.
Clusters of white and yellow flowers decorate the scene as the party continues.
Someone in the crowd calls out for Eden as the gala carries on.
Lord Chase wonders where his friend has disappeared to while looking through the crowd. Lord Chase spots a figure partially hidden behind the heavy ballroom curtains. Lord Chase laughs and promises to arrive earlier next time as he approaches his friend.
He questions why his friend is standing in such a strange spot.
A sudden, quick peek sounding follows as Lord Chase startles Emily by asking if she was feeling uncomfortable.
Emily greets Lord Chase and apologizes for startling him with her presence.
They exchange polite greetings as the Grand Academy building glows under the night sky.
Lord Chase asks why she was hiding and admits he thought she was a ghost, leaving him feeling embarrassed. A sudden, quick turn sounding follows as Emily claims she only wanted to get some fresh air.
Chase realizes how close they were standing and thinks to himself that he should have left them alone.
Chase notes that the prince and Kira arrived together while Valenti arrived on his own earlier. Chase explains that the prince sent Valenti ahead so he wouldn't be outshone by his friend's handsome looks. Chase mentions that the prince usually doesn't care for attention, making tonight's extra effort very unusual. Chase assumes the prince's refined appearance is entirely for the sake of impressing Miss Kira. The prince and Kira share a happy moment together while holding glasses of wine. A sudden, sharp flinch sounding follows as Emily notes her heart flutters just by watching them. A sudden, heavy stare sounding follows as a jealous Valenti glares at Lord Chase for being too close to Emily. Chase gets a sudden bright idea. Emily looks up and asks if something is the matter. Chase explains that formal titles make things difficult and asks Emily to simply call him William from now on. Lord Valenti is stunned by the request while a purple bubble reflects his inner shock. Valenti agrees to call him Lord William as a sudden, sharp daggers sounding reflects the intensity of his glare. A sudden, quick dash sounding follows as Valenti grabs Chase with a sudden, sharp grab sounding, a heavy pull sounding, and a painful squeeze sounding. As a crack sounding echoes, a pained Chase wonders why the man is gripping him so hard, while Valenti offers a fake laugh and agrees. Valenti blushes and turns back to Emily with a look of mild surprise. Chase notes that Valenti's title is different from his brother's and realizes the man is being incredibly obvious about his feelings for Emily.
A sudden rhythmic badam sounding follows as Valenti asks if Emily would please call him Eden.
A sudden rhythmic badum sounding accompanies Emily's blushing face as she agrees and tells herself to get it together. A quiet moment of romantic tension. A sudden rhythmic badoom sounding follows as Emily thanks him, leaving Valenti to wonder if such a simple request even requires thanks while an exhausted Chase recovers in the background. The prince approaches the group and notes that everyone seems to be gathered in the same spot. Emily regrets getting so distracted by her conversation that she lost track of her surroundings. A guest greets the prince while the royal notes that he didn't realize the group was so close. Chase laughs and explains they only just met, while the prince suggests they will likely see much of each other in the future, as Emily worries she can no longer hide. The prince smiles warmly and reminds them that getting to know one another is the purpose of the banquet. The prince encourages the group to leave the corner and join the rest of the guests for a drink. Kira waves enthusiastically at Emily while the two girls greet each other by name. A sudden, quick dash sounding follows as someone attempts to invite Kira to dine with them later. Other guests rush forward to greet the royal couple as they move through the ballroom.
A brown-haired girl named Mary introduces herself as a second-year swordsmanship student and the daughter of Viscount Montcroy.
The crowd murmurs in disapproval at the lack of a formal introduction for the Viscount's daughter. Lady Estina watches the social drama.
The prince maintains a stern expression.
Mary offers to provide guidance as an upperclassman and apologizes for the delay in introducing herself.
Narrated text explains that Academy rules prohibit discrimination and allow students to prioritize their school year over noble status. A sudden, frantic stampede sounding occurs as students rush the prince. A sudden, sharp smack sounding follows as wine is spilled and someone cries out in distress.
Kira looks around in total shock. Wine splashes across the white dress. A sudden heavy thud sounding follows as Kira falls while Mary looks down at her ruined dress in total horror.
A tense silence falls over everyone. Someone points out the stains on Lord Eden's shirt, but he dismisses the concern and immediately checks to see if Emily is unharmed. Emily assures him she is fine while others cry out in concern for the falling Kira.
A sudden clumsy stumble sounding follows as Emily catches the wavering Kira.
Emily checks on her friend's lobbying.
Emily realizes her attempt to stay unnoticed has been completely ruined by the accident.
Emily ignores her own desire to hide and focuses entirely on checking if Kira is hurt.
A sudden, angry tremble sounding follows as Mary clenches her fist near her stained white dress and asks what they are doing.
Mary demands to know if anyone realizes how expensive her dress was.
A sudden, sharp flinch sounding follows as Mary calls Emily a lowly commoner while Kira looks on with a shimmering gaze.
The prince intervenes with a calm smile and offers to pay for the ruined dress to settle the matter.
Emily attempts to apologize while Mary remains furious and insults her status again.
The prince takes responsibility for the accident and repeats his offer to cover the costs of the dress.
The prince asks everyone to calm down while a flustered Mary begins to protest.
Mary attempts to find the words to respond to the prince's sudden intervention. The surrounding guests continue their mummers.
Mary realizes the embarrassment of her behavior given the prince's generosity and notes the importance of the night.
Mary turns and runs away crying.
Estina watches in silence as a man calls out to someone named Chloe in the background.
Kira cries while someone asks if she is feeling all right.
A sobbing Kira laments being the only person unable to greet the prince properly.
Kira looks away with a distressed and tearful expression.
Guests chat and laughter in the body.
Musicians perform on cellos during the gala. Emily looks on with a pensive and silent expression. Emily looks up with a sudden curious expression.
Emily notes a stain on her dress and suspects someone intentionally pushed her.
Emily reflects on the intentional chaos of the situation. Emily comforts Kira while reflecting on the sudden turn of events.
Kira hesitates as she tries to find her words.
Kira feels guilty for running away without apologizing to the girl she spilled her drink on.
Emily reminds Kira that she was the one being bullied and shouldn't blame herself. Kira determines to remind the other girl that discrimination is strictly forbidden at the academy.
Emily smiles and notes that such a bold attitude is typical of Kira. Emily stands between her two friends with a startled expression.
A sudden rhythmic step sounding follows as Emily walks through the academy grounds at night.
Emily explains she is retiring early due to exhaustion, and Kira agrees to do the same. Emily lets out a sudden soft sigh sounding and decides to take a walk after doing laundry.
Emily looks through a window and admires the magnificent view of the ballroom.
Emily reflects on the perfection of the party's music, food, and magical atmosphere.
A sudden sharp creak sounding follows as Emily enters the building and notes her low energy.
A maid offers a cheerful greeting and notes how diligent Emily is for returning so early.
The maid searches for a specific laundry order for a first-year student named Adesio. The maid presents the cleaned vest and explains that the delicate fabric took longer than usual. Emily expresses her gratitude for finally receiving the finished vest.
Moonlight illuminates the elegant arched windows of the hallway.
Emily notes how peaceful the academy grounds feel even during such a busy night.
Emily sits by the fountain and notes the natural beauty of the trees in this area.
Emily listens to the trickling fountain and the sound of chirping insects.
A sudden soft clutch sounding follows as Emily holds the laundry bag and smells the fresh scent.
A voice calls out to Emily from the darkness.
Emily looks up in surprise to find Lord Eden standing before her. Eden reaches out and apologizes for startling her so suddenly.
Emily offers a bright and cheerful smile to the young man. A sudden deep blush sounding follows as Eden looks at Emily with wide eyes. Eden feels relieved that the darkness hides his flustered face. Emily lets out a sudden quick ah sounding and worries she was being too enthusiastic.
Emily admits she was happy to see him and was just worrying about how to return his laundry.
Emily blushes and realizes how she must sound to him. Eden thanks Emily for her thoughtfulness while she wonders if she is talking too fast. Emily notes how hot her face feels as she continues to blush. Emily is thankful for the darkness of the night.
Detailed view of the lace collar on Estina's white tess.
Estina reflects on being left alone despite her claims that she didn't need company.
Narrative text displays the title, "Please Leave Miss Emily Alone."
A sudden quick huff sounding follows as Estina looks away. A sudden heavy plop sounding follows as Estina sits down in an ornate chair.
A memory shows a girl shouting at someone for daring to speak back to her. The memory continues as the girl insults another student for being a lowly commoner.
Kira remembers how her school life became a nightmare as a sudden sharp shove sounding, a clumsy wobble sounding, a busy bustle sounding, and an idle chatter sounding follow while she is pushed through the halls. As a heavy shaw sounding echoes, she realizes the entire student body has turned against her. Kira falls into the mud with a sudden heavy squelch sounding while students mock her from above, leaving her to listen to a slow drip sounding and their cruel laughter. Kira reflects on the evening's events and admits that her past trauma made her freeze up entirely at the banquet. Kira looks at her reflection with a pained expression and notes her inability to move when it mattered most.
A sudden painful squeeze sounding follows as Kira clutches her head in a moment of extreme emotional distress. A childhood memory shows a young Kira crying desperately alone in a dark, snowy forest. A sudden faint sparkle sounding appears in the distance amidst the falling snow and darkness.
Kira sits alone in her room, staring at her discarded tiara with a look of profound sadness.
Kira recalls a mysterious voice offering help at a time that would be most convenient for her. Kira is startled as she realizes a significant truth about her situation.
A sudden, quick knock sounding at the door is followed by an attendant announcing Kira's arrival, which the prince acknowledges by granting her permission to enter. A sudden, soft flip sounding and a sudden, sharp creak sounding occur as the blonde prince looks up from the papers he was reading.
A sudden, polite bow sounding follows as Kira enters the room while the prince greets her and expresses his hope that she would arrive.
The prince looks at Kira with surprise and notes that he didn't expect her to arrive in such an outfit. Kira explains her decision to wear her school uniform as a mark of courtesy for the meeting.
The prince notes her commoner status and suggests that meeting on a different day would have been more appropriate given her condition.
The prince rests his chin on his hand and falls into a pensive silence.
The prince asks Kira if she is frequently subjected to harassment by the other students.
A sudden, polite bow sounding follows as Kira looks down in a moment of silent shame.
The prince hums thoughtfully as he continues to observe the young girl's reaction.
Kira looks back at the prince with a curious and uncertain expression.
The prince insists that Kira dry herself off before they continue their conversation further.
A servant carefully prepares a cup of tea on an ornate saucer for the meeting. The prince takes a leisurely sip of his tea while maintaining a calm demeanor.
Now dressed in a clean white gown, Kira holds her tea and offers her heartfelt thanks for the hospitality.
The prince smiles warmly as he watches Kira. The prince expresses his genuine happiness that Kira is pleased with the arrangements.
The two share a quiet moment of mutual understanding across the tea table. Kira gazes at the prince with a look of shimmering wonder and awe.
The prince explains the noble tradition of sponsorship and clarifies that he has no selfish motives behind his offer to her. The prince asserts that Kira's exceptional magical abilities make her perfectly suited for the honor of the royal family.
Kira is stunned into silence by the prince's unexpected and high praise.
The prince notes her lack of response and wonders if the proposal was unwelcome, prompting a shocked Kira to quickly express her deep gratitude. The prince offers to assign a personal bodyguard to her, but Kira politely declines the extra protection.
Kira looks up with a renewed sense of determination and resolve.
Kira states her firm desire to prove that she is capable of handling things on her own. Kira walks away from the royal meeting with a steady and confident step.
Kira reflects on the shocking turn of events with a sense of disbelief.
Kira gasps as she realizes the incredible weight of the prince's offer.
Kira wonders if it is truly possible for her to become a ward of the royal family.
Kira admits she only approached the prince out of desperation to survive the school year through rumors. Kira realizes the proposal is an opportunity far greater than anything she could have hoped for. Kira grips her jewelry tightly as she prepares to face the world with her new status. Kira vows to show everyone that she is no different from the high-ranking students who bullied her.
A sudden bright flare sounding accompanies the awakening of the magical power within her.
Kira's eye glows with an intense and fiery magical light. Kira makes a final, solemn vow to become the most powerful witch she can possibly be. Returning to the present night, Eden summarizes Emily's evening walk while she offers her thanks for his protection at the ball. A sudden, deep blush sounding follows as a flustered Emily hides her face in guilt over Eden's ruined clothes. Eden assures Emily that he is simply glad her dress was saved while she continues to offer her apologies. A sudden, busy rummaging sounding follows as Emily searches through her bag while reflecting on her embarrassment over Lord Eden's protection. She justifies her reaction by noting the high cost of her dress, which equaled 3 months of her allowance.
A heavy, awkward silence settles over Emily and Eden as they sit together by the fountain in the soft glow of the night.
Emily looks up with a curious and questioning expression. Eden gazes at Emily and asks if she would be willing to grant him a favor. Eden maintains his focused gaze as he repeats his request for a favor from her. Emily tilts her head and asks what kind of favor he is referring to. A sudden, brief hesitate sounding follows as Eden nervously asks if Emily would join him for a cup of tea. Emily reacts with a bright, joyful smile that seems to light up her entire face. Eden is taken aback, his eyes widening in a moment of silent shock. A sudden rhythmic badum sounding follows as Eden feels his heart skip a beat. A sudden double badoom sounding follows as Emily agrees to Lord Eden's request, admitting she was startled for a moment. Eden offers a gentle smile and asks if he may take her agreement as consent for them to visit the city together.
A sudden, soft wow sounding follows as Emily realizes she has never seen Lord Eden smile so warmly before.
A sudden bright dazzle sounding accompanies Emily as she giggles bashfully while Eden watches her with a soft expression. A sudden, cheerful chirp sounding follows as the morning sun rises over the Grand Academy buildings. A sudden, light flutter sounding follows as a classmate excitedly calls out to Emily to look at a newspaper. A sudden, tired yawn sounding follows as Emily lazily asks what her friend is showing her. A sudden, firm grab sounding follows as Emily reads the shocking headline about Prince Lucas dating a commoner. She immediately wonders if the drink spill incident was also mentioned in the report. A sudden, relieved pew sounding follows as Emily confirms the disaster at the party was omitted from the story.
Sophia asks if it is acceptable to leak academy secrets and wonders who took the photograph, while Emily firmly agrees that it is definitely not okay.
Sophia notes that she heard someone intentionally sold the story to the press.
Inside an office, two men discuss a student's 2-week suspension and the danger of upsetting the royals for money, though one notes that everyone is usually only concerned with the first prince.
A sudden, sharp scrape sounding follows as Emily points out the strangeness of the situation, noting the loss of tuition money far outweighs any profit from the story.
Sophia leans in and whispers about a rumor claiming Prince Lucas himself was the one who leaked the information.
Emily stares in disbelief at the possibility of the prince being involved.
Emily wonders if the prince is creating a distraction to prevent the party incident from damaging Kira's reputation.
Emily tries to dismiss her wild thoughts, reminding herself that the prince didn't seem to be protecting Kira initially.
A memory shows the girl from the party clutching her chest and questioning why Kira would cause such a fuss after the prince's generosity.
Emily remains lost in deep thought while holding a small object.
Emily asks Sophia if she knows the identity of the student she spilled her drink all.
Sophia identifies the student as Miss Chloe, a brown-haired girl in a white dress, and notes how shocked she was by the girl's loud reaction.
Emily asks if Sophia knows Chloe well or what her class schedule is. Sophia replies that Chloe is in their same department and likely takes all the required courses.
Emily is surprised to realize she will likely see Chloe in her magic and divinity class today.
Sophia mentions that Chloe is reportedly going home for a few days as rumors of her ill temper have spread since the party. Silhouettes of students discuss the social fallout, noting that the family of the boy Chloe is close to has expressed their disapproval.
Emily listens with a pensive and slightly troubled expression.
An older woman's voice warns that reputation damage in high society ruins marriage prospects and urges proper conduct.
A sudden, heavy sigh sounding follows as Emily reflects on how exhausting aristocratic society truly is.
A sudden, sharp clock sounding and a sudden, steady step sounding draw the attention of Emily and Sophia.
A man with silver hair and glasses enters the room, carrying a basket and instructing everyone to take their seats. A student raises her hand and curiously asks what is inside the basket the instructor is carrying.
The basket is revealed to be full of large, textured white bags.
The instructor confirms the student's suspicions while they react with surprise.
The instructor explains that these are mana absorption stones that will hatch into mana pets once infused with enough energy.
A sudden, excited whoa sounding and a sudden, loud wow sounding follow as students recall seeing older peers carrying these tiny magical creatures.
A sudden, rhythmic tap sounding follows as the instructor clarifies that the pets are mana-based illusions and will eventually vanish. A sudden, soft humph sounding and a sudden, mocking boo sounding occur as the instructor tells the class to focus, warning that a hatch is never guaranteed.
A sudden, quick scribble sounding and a sudden, light top sounding follow as the instructor poses a math problem regarding different mana infusion schedules.
A sudden, soft top sounding follows as the instructor holds a piece of chalk and pauses for the student's answer.
The instructor concludes that while more frequent infusion should lead to a faster hatch in theory, mana control varies from person to person. The instructor addresses the stunned class, confident they will never forget the lesson he just delivered.
He recounts a tale of a former student who failed a mana infusion task due to a lack of persistence.
A sudden, soft tap sounding follows as the instructor hits the chalkboard with a piece of chalk.
He emphasizes the absolute necessity of mastering mana control above all else. A sudden, quick scribble sounding follows as Emily dutifully copies the required formula while the instructor directs the class to calculate their own mana output. A sudden, bright glimmer sounding follows as Emily's pen begins to glow with an intense, magical light.
The glowing egg radiates brilliant energy.
Surrounded by vibrant blooms, Emily gazes at the glowing egg in her hands with a look of pure, shimmering wonder.
Dark blue roses mark scene transition. Intricate corridor leading to the palace.
A sudden, soft squirm sounding and a sudden, heavy tremble sounding occur as the prince mocks Lord Noah, calling him a cute but dim-witted dog.
Noah desperately agrees with his superior while the prince remains seated in a regal, relaxed pose. A cold blue eye stares out.
A voice questions whether his patience must be tested further during this tedious process.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounding follows as Noah frantically pleads for Prince Theodore to hear him out.
Theodore de Valusin, the first prince of Larosin, exudes an aura of chilling authority and unmatched elegance.
A sudden, low groan sounding echoes through the classroom as students collapse onto their desks, exhausted from training.
Chase watches in disbelief as the dark-haired Eden remains perfectly composed and shows no signs of fatigue after the session.
A sudden, light sounding follows as Eden focuses on a specific page in his book.
Chase wonders why Eden hasn't turned the page since the very beginning of the lecture.
A sudden, sharp bolt sounding follows as Eden stands up abruptly, leaving Chase startled by his sudden movement.
A sudden, heavy creak sounding follows as Eden exits the room, prompting a confused Chase to ask why he is leaving so soon.
Chase calls after Eden to wait up, but the silent boy continues his focused march. Busy students chatter in the hallway.
A sudden heavy pant sounding follows as a winded Chase catches up to Eden, questioning his repetitive actions.
A sudden quick glance sounding follows as Eden looks over his shoulder at his friend. Chase is stunned into silence when Eden casually admits he is on his way to see Miss Emily. He follows Eden down the hallway, shouting in shock at the idea that they have been meeting in secret, though Eden flatly denies it. Chase stops in his tracks, wondering if their busy schedules simply didn't align. He sweats nervously as he asks if they have been meeting each other alone.
Eden stares ahead with deadpan highs.
A silent question wonders if the stoic boy is actually just a bit socially slow. A sudden, heavy sigh sounding follows as Eden confesses he hasn't actually been meeting her, but has only been loitering where she might appear. He warns Chase not to interfere as he prepares to search several locations for the girl. Eden admits his genuine feelings for Emily and expresses a firm desire to formally ask her out one day. Eden stands with firm, clear intention. Chase is overwhelmed by the information, realizing that his friend's lack of romantic experience is actually quite typical. He remains internally shocked that such an honest confession came from someone as detached as Eden. Eden begins to walk away again, causing Chase to cry out in exasperation over his friend's sudden burst of self-awareness. Chase finally relents and informs Eden that Emily is likely in the main building at this very moment. Eden reacts to the tip with a brief moment of surprise. A sudden, heavy stride sounding follows as Eden walks past with a dark intensity, leaving a frightened Chase wondering how he could have known that information. Chase tries to lighten the mood by asking what kind of reward Eden is offering for the tip. Eden immediately calls his friend Sir William Chase, creating a sudden, chilling atmosphere that stops Chase's laughter. The power dynamic shift is clear. Chase looks on in genuine terror, convinced that his friend is completely unstable and perhaps a bit crazy. He recalls a memory of Prince Lucas asking Kira about her schedule, which helped him figure out where Emily would be.
A sudden, light scratch sounding follows as Chase explains Emily's likely location and assures Eden he hasn't interacted with her himself.
A sudden, soft blink sounding follows as Chase looks on with a confused expression while Eden stares ahead. Eden's expression softens in silent thought. Eden accepts the white lilies and offers a simple word of thanks. Chase waves as he walks away, loudly requesting that Eden bring him back a croissant. Chase observes that Eden is quite a character and suggests he save those smiles for Miss Emily before wondering why Eden was so set on being with her. In a memory of a confusing talk, Eden explains that he didn't have a complex plan and simply wanted to be in her company. Chase notes that while he missed the chance to see him squirm, Eden is finally being honest about his feelings and wishes him good luck.
A sudden, energetic sprint sounding follows.
Eden's focused eyes as he runs. Eden's mouth forms a small smile.
Eden's arm moves in a blur.
Eden runs past lush garden flowers. Eden reasons that even though she didn't give a direct answer, she must be comfortable with the situation. Eden continues running with a blush. A silent thought expresses a deep desire to spend the upcoming weekend together. Yellow berries and white flowers blend. Emily holds her book, looking surprised.
Emily smiles brightly as she catches sight of Eden and calls his name.
Eden looks at her warmly and offers a polite good morning. An ornate uniform and golden crest. Eden offers an apology to Miss Emily, causing her to ask if something is wrong. A sudden, firm clench sounding follows as Eden grips the railing and admits he had been waiting for the right moment to tell her something. Eden stands on the steps and asks if she would be available to spend some time with him later today. He clarifies his request, asking if she would be free to join him for tea in the afternoon. Emily realizes the meaning behind his words and excitedly agrees, recalling her promise and suggesting they meet at the garden entrance after class. A sudden, polite bow sounding follows as Eden thanks Miss Emily and agrees that the plan sounds good.
Emily laughs it off as nothing and tells him that she is actually the one who is more thankful to him for everything he has done.
Emily says she will see him later, and Eden promises to meet her then. A sudden, quick dash sounding follows as Emily runs off to class. Eden watches Emily's retreating figure silently. A sudden, graceful whirl sounding and a sudden, soft blush sounding follow as Emily turns away. Emily looks away with a blush.
Emily's wide eyes show her surprise.
A sudden, heavy creak sounding and a sudden, steady step sounding draw attention as Emily enters the lecture hall. Kira waves from her desk and calls Emily over to sit with her.
A sudden, quick scurry sounding follows as Kira notices Emily's state and asks if something happened to make her face look so flushed.
Emily laughs nervously and makes up an excuse about oversleeping after a nap and having to run all the way to class. Kira asks how Emily's commercial magic class went.
Emily beams and says the subject suits her perfectly, so much so that she is considering it as a future career path.
A sudden, shy, bashful sounding follows as Kira expresses her happiness, while Emily thanks her friend for the original recommendation. Kira suddenly remembers the incident at the party and asks if Emily ever discovered the identity of the girl she spilled her drink on.
Emily confirms she learned the girl is Chloe Allen, a first-year magic student who has been staying with her family since the disaster occurred.
Kira reacts with wide, curious eyes.
A sudden gentle nod sounding follows as Emily expresses her hope that Chloe returns soon so she can offer a formal apology. A sudden energetic wave sounding follows as Kira starts to ask about the news article, but the instructor interrupts and tells everyone to take their seats.
The instructor begins the magic lesson.
Green leaves frame the scene transition.
A sudden, loud ringing sounding follows as the school bell announces the end of the class session. A sudden, noisy chatter sounding follows as students fill the hallways after the lecture.
A sudden fast dash sounding follows as Emily hurries through the corridor.
Emily shouts back to her friend that she can't stay because she has a prior engagement.
A sudden hurried rush sounding follows as Kira waves goodbye and Emily sprints off to meet Eden.
A sudden light sounding follows as Emily contemplates her reflection in a quiet moment.
A sudden quiet whisper sounding follows as Emily happily helps a fellow student find a specific page and paragraph in their textbook before giggling softly.
A sudden bright glimmer sounding follows as sunlight dances across the ornate fountain in the school's lush garden. Emily dresses elegantly for her outing.
Intricate white lace adorns Emily's dress.
A sudden firm clutch sounding follows as a blushing Emily worries she overdressed for their downtown trip, just as Eden arrives and notes her presence.
Eden offers an apology for his delay.
He explains that the registration line for the teleportation portal was unexpectedly long.
Emily admits she had planned to register alongside him, which catches the boy by surprise. She expresses regret for not arriving earlier to handle her own registration if the wait was so extensive. A sudden, soft gasp sounding follows as Eden offers to rush back and add her name to the list, but Emily insists they stay together despite the wait. Eden's thoughts repeat her desire to register together as he suggests they finally set off. A sudden, heavy, awkward sounding follows as the pair stands together in stiff, blushing silence. A sudden, graceful turn sounding follows as Emily asks for confirmation that summer vacation begins right after their midterm exams. Eden confirms the schedule and acknowledges that her first exam season at the academy must be quite stressful. A sudden, violent shudder sounding follows as Emily confesses her struggle to keep up with classes and her fear of the difficult written tests. A sudden, long sigh sounding and a sudden, soft uh-oh sounding follow as Emily slumps in despair while a tiny Eden looks on with concern. A sudden, soft sounding follows as Eden mentions hearing rumors about study guides for the magic department exams.
Emily is immediately intrigued by the news, while Eden explains that while guides exist, they are often compiled by students and aren't always accurate. He describes a legendary 2-question guide that reportedly guarantees high points, noting how envious his friend William was of this resource. Emily reacts with surprise at the high point value of the rumored questions.
She admits she wants to believe the rumors despite how unrealistic they sound. Eden cautions her that it might just be a joke and apologizes for getting her hopes up since he doesn't have the guide himself.
Emily gives him a bright smile and tells him his intent to help was very sweet.
A sudden magical poof sounding follows as Eden blushes while Emily considers if she should start her own business selling study guides.
A sudden tired huff sounding and a sudden noisy chatter sounding occur as the registrar processes the crowd while Eden realizes time flew by.
A grand gazebo houses a portal. A sudden powerful whoosh sounding follows as the two prepare to enter the glowing magic circle. Brilliant blue light fills the area. A sudden loud bam sounding follows as the teleportation magic activates.
Fresh green leaves frame the transition. A sudden amazed wow sounding and a sudden busy chatter sounding follow as Emily marvels at the bustling city streets.
Eden explains that the district is a hub for both magic and tourism, ensuring it stays lively even on weekdays. Eden calls Emily over to follow him toward their destination. Well-maintained gardens line the city street. Emily enjoys the beautiful scenery, while Eden notes the effort put into the town's tourist-friendly design. Eden tentatively calls out to Hanali.
He invites her to grab some lunch before they proceed to their planned tea time.
Emily looks up with wide, surprised eyes. Eden mentions a restaurant he frequents that serves excellent food.
He expresses a genuine desire to take her there.
Eden asks for her response to the invitation. A sudden light oh sounding follows as Emily realizes they both skipped lunch to meet right after their lectures.
Emily happily accepts the invitation and confirms she has no dietary restrictions when Eden asks.
Eden is pleased by her positive response.
He asks if she is ready to go inside.
Polite staff greet them, offering to take their belongings as they enter the establishment.
A sudden quiet whoa sounding follows as Emily is dazzled by the restaurant's grand interior.
A sudden polite buzz sounding follows as they are shown to a table, making Emily wonder if Eden is a regular guest with a reserved seat. A sudden sharp uh-oh sounding follows as Emily notices something unexpected.
Emily notices that prices for the dishes are not listed on the restaurant's ornate menu.
Emily peers over the menu and worries about the potential cost while a sudden soft sounding escapes her.
Emily asks if a restaurant this grand usually requires a reservation, noting its incredible beauty.
Eden confirms her suspicion, but begins to explain his unique situation. Eden mentions that he finds making reservations inconvenient, so he has a table permanently held for him while he is at the academy. Emily is stunned by the revelation, while Eden explains he simply asked for a favor and they obliged.
Eden invites Emily to dine there whenever she wishes by simply using his name.
Eden explains the bill is charged to his family, prompting an uncomfortable Emily to politely decline the generous offer.
Emily worries she was too blunt with her rejection after he made such a kind gesture.
Emily stares ahead in quiet contemplation.
Emily reflects on Eden's status as the son of a marquis and the immense value of his intricate clothing and jewels.
The meal concludes, leaving only crumbs and empty dishes on the table.
Emily thanks Eden and praises the delicious food.
Emily gracefully dabs her mouth with a white napkin.
Eden watches her with a warm and attentive gaze.
Sunlight catches the intricate, jewel-encrusted crest on Eden's chest.
Eden apologizes for the oversight of serving dessert and tea, which was already part of the meal plan.
Eden asks if she truly enjoyed it, and Emily enthusiastically confirms.
Eden expresses his desire to spend more time with her, making Emily laugh shyly.
Emily feels conflicted and unsure how to respond to the high regard he clearly has for her.
Emily lowers her gaze as she processes her complex feelings of appreciation and doubt.
Bright tulips and white blossoms frame the scene as the pair transitions to a walk.
The pair continues their conversation in the pleasant, sun-drenched garden atmosphere. Emily's green eyes reflect her growing curiosity as she listens to him.
Emily happily agrees that the current plan for their walk sounds wonderful. A sudden, cheerful chirp sounding fills the air as they walk past the lush greenery.
A sudden, rhythmic step sounding follows as Eden suggests visiting a nearby temple dedicated to the goddess of justice.
Emily anticipates a beautiful view from the temple tower, and Eden agrees.
A sudden melodic step sounding and a sudden soft chirp sounding accompany them on their sunlit forest walk.
Emily thinks to herself that the quiet surroundings and fresh air help her clear her head.
They arrive at the base of a tall stone tower.
Eden offers to let Emily go first so he can catch her if she slips on the stairs, but she declines.
A sudden soft ah sounding follows as Emily worries for her dress, prompting Eden to lead the way up the tower instead. A sudden quick dash sounding follows as Eden rapidly ascends the stairs, surprising Emily with his agility.
Emily notices he is starting to overheat and suggests he remove his coat, but he insists he is fine.
A sudden, steady march sounding follows as they continue their climb together. Emily points out that he is visibly sweating, though Eden remains stubborn about his comfort. Emily asks for a brief rest, which Eden immediately grants.
Emily catches her breath by the door and promises she will be ready to continue soon.
A sudden, amazed wow sounding follows as they look out over the sprawling city from the tower's midpoint. A sudden, gentle reach sounding follows as Emily prepares to display her magical abilities.
Emily holds a brilliant, glowing blue magic stone in her palm. A sudden, long exhale sounding follows as Emily focuses her energy into the stone. Feathers and glowing particles dance in the blue sky as wind magic activates.
A sudden, soft rustle sounding captures Eden's attention as he watches the magical display.
Delicate white blossoms frame the peaceful, magical moment. Emily beams with joy as the breeze she created dances through her long hair. Eden asks if she enjoys the breeze, explaining that his own magical control is limited to the wind. The two stand together on the high balcony under a vast, clear blue sky. A sudden, playful struggle sounding follows as the scene shifts to Chloe asking about something while a figure fumbles with their clothing nearby.
Emily asks if Kira said something and mentions her curiosity about the object on the desk.
Kira asks if it looks like an egg or a rock before revealing it is a mana absorption stone for an assignment.
Emily mentions she can feel magic radiating from it, and Kira agrees, noting it is her first time seeing one as well.
Emily is impressed by the exquisite magic, and Kira explains that teachers worked hard on them and that consistently injecting magic will hatch a mana pet. Emily is excited by the news and asks if the scribbles on the page are the magical formulas Kira is using. Kira notes that the work is difficult because even a small mistake could block the magic flow, requiring precise calculations.
Kira suggests a way to divide the formula to make the process easier for Emily.
A sudden, quick scribble sounding follows as Kira modifies the formula, leaving Emily amazed that she understood everything so quickly.
Kira explains that changing a variable means Emily won't have to recalculate everything, and a grateful Emily thanks her for the help.
Kira expresses her pleasure in being helpful to her friend. Kira asks what class the assignment is for. The blonde-haired girl mentions it is for the illusion magic teacher.
A girl shouts to Kira that they must hurry to the training grounds to avoid being late for today's class.
The scene transitions as someone thinks about the importance of not being late today. A sudden, cheerful welcome sounding follows as the students arrive at the academy building. The instructor announces an orientation followed by team drills with third-year students, emphasizing that teamwork is the most important part of the lesson. The purple-haired woman tells the class it is time to get moving. Flowers bloom around the Grand Academy.
Emily wonders to herself if Lord Eden will be present at the training session.
Focused eyes watch from the shadows.
Emily considers if other lords like Chase or Valenti will be at the class too.
Kira mentions not knowing if all the students will participate since department sizes differ, but she hopes to see familiar faces. A sudden nervous yike sounding follows as Emily worries she might have trouble concentrating if he is there. A sudden loud stampede sounding follows as the students spot the swordsmanship department.
A sudden observant glance sounding follows as training concludes for the group.
A sudden busy chatter sounding follows as the swordsmen finish their workout on the field.
A sudden soft wipe sounding follows as a sweating boy dries his face after the practice.
His shirt lifts, revealing toned abs. A sudden excited cheer sounding follows as the girls praise the swordsman's performance.
A sudden dizzying spin sounding follows as a blushing Emily turns away, panicking that Eden might have seen her.
Emily panics that Eden might think she was the one shouting, admitting she was thinking it anyway and feels like she saw something she shouldn't have.
A sudden tired sounding follows as Emily feels like a peeping Tom despite the situation being out of her control.
Sunlight catches on his dark hair.
Kira happily announces to Emily that they have been placed on the same team. A sudden, quick dash sounding follows as Emily expresses her excitement and asks who their teammate from the swordsmanship department is.
Jake Lindell introduces himself as a third-year student in the Department of Swordsmanship.
Kira and Emily introduce themselves to their new teammate.
A sudden, polite bow sounding follows as an announcement calls for the attention of the students.
Alex, the head of the Department of Swordsmanship, announces a practical training evaluation where teams must find a magic orb hidden in the forest.
A sudden, low whir sounding follows as the female instructor warns that while the forest is booby-trapped to keep monsters out, it is still full of dangerous animals.
A sudden, rhythmic flap sounding follows as glowing butterflies appear. The instructor explains that if a team is in danger, they should imbue a signal butterfly with magic for immediate aid.
A sudden, magical sparkle sounding follows as the first group is called to step forward.
Teams assemble before the dark forest. The evaluation officially begins as the groups of students head into the woods. Jake tells the girls that finding the orb sooner will mean spending less time walking through the forest, and Emily agrees.
A sudden, steady step sounding follows as the trio enters the dense, leafy forest.
A sudden, observant glance sounding follows as Kira decides to use mana detection magic to avoid wandering around blindly. Warm light radiates from between palms.
A brilliant magic stone shines brightly.
A sudden, loud whoosh sounding resonates through the sky.
Jake watches from behind as the girls walk ahead through the sunlit forest.
Emily thinks to herself that Kira is truly incredible. A sudden, soft rustle sounding prompts an alert reaction from the group as they wonder what they have found.
Kira wonders what is happening and asks if the magical object is not responding.
A sudden, thoughtful sounding follows as Kira notes that the glowing orb still looks the same as before. Jake suggests that they walk a bit deeper into the forest to continue their search. A sudden, soft sounding escapes Kira as something in the grass catches her eye.
Kira excitedly tells the others to look at the discovery.
Jake praises Emily's great eye for detection and asks for direction, prompting Kira to suggest heading to the left.
Jake warns that the path forward is rough and unmaintained, noting that the Academy's ancient grounds were protected by a wizard's booby traps centuries ago.
Kira admits she had no idea Jake was so knowledgeable, leading him to laugh and reveal he has been at the Academy for 5 years after failing many classes.
A sudden, quick dash sounding follows as Emily calls her teammates over, noting a stronger mana reaction ahead and insisting the area must be safe. A sudden, considering sounding follows as Jake agrees that Emily's reasoning for the direction is likely correct.
A sudden, sharp caw sounding fills the air as Jake agrees to follow the new path for a little while longer.
A sudden, rhythmic step sounding and a sudden, low whir sounding accompany the group as Kira and Emily feel the mana reaction getting closer.
A sudden, joyful woohoo sounding follows as the trio celebrates their luck in avoiding wild animals while hoping to be the first to find the orb. A sudden, soft rustle sounding continues as the students begin searching through the dense, sun-drenched foliage together. A sudden, tired sigh sounding follows as Kira searches the bushes only to find a frog and a butterfly instead of their target. Emily suggests moving on to another area, noting they have searched the current spot multiple times with no results. Jake agrees to continue the search elsewhere, but warns the girls to stay close because the forest remains dangerous. A sudden, soft grab sounding follows as Emily picks up the orb and finds its lack of reaction strange. Emily stares ahead in quiet contemplation. A sudden, soft shuffle sounding catches Kira's attention as she realizes a teammate has moved away. Emily urgently calls out for Kira not to wander off on her own because of the dangers in the forest. Kira explains that she feels mana pulling from 3 different directions, with one being especially strong. A sudden, dizzying spin sounding and a sudden, loud whoosh sounding follow as Kira is warned about a nearby cliff before slipping and falling into the void. A sudden, rhythmic wobble sounding follows as a panicked Emily screams Kira's name while her friend disappears over the edge. A sudden, frantic grab sounding follows as Emily reaches out and catches her falling teammate. A sudden, heavy thud sounding and a sudden, soft plunk sounding echo as the pair struggles to maintain their footing on the edge. Emily catches her breath and expresses her relief that they are safe for the moment.
A sudden violent plunge sounding and a sudden harsh scrape sounding follow as Emily calls for Kira, realizing they are falling into a pit of mud as Jake screams her name.
Jake screams Emily's name in desperation as he looks down the steep, muddy slope they just tumbled down.
A sudden, sharp caw sounding echoes over the silent forest canopy.
Sunlight catches on the dark hair of a focused Eden as he continues his search. Eden and a fellow student exchange confused glances in the woods.
A student asks why they came this way, and Eden retorts with the same question before the student offers a quick apology.
The student admits he didn't know Eden was participating today and asks where he was during his recent absence.
Eden explains he had to take a shower, leaving his teammate confused as to why since everyone came straight from their training session.
Eden remains silent during the awkward exchange with his confused teammate. A sudden, annoyed geez sounding follows as Eden claims that revealing his location would be unfair and tells his teammate to stop talking nonsense. The student warns Eden not to assume he will be the first to find the hidden orb just because he arrived at the forest first.
A sudden, cheerful ha-ha sounding follows as the student rallies Group 8 to depart while Eden confidently suggests they will see who succeeds. Eden continues his solitary walk through the dense woods.
White blossoms frame a moment of silent contemplation for the dark-haired boy. A sudden, soft rustle sounding and a sudden, sharp whirl sounding follow as Eden's eye catches a suspicious movement in the tall grass.
Eden encounters two girls who stop their search to ask if he has found anything yet.
Eden confirms he hasn't found the orb, and the girls explain they are going to search further using their detection magic.
A sudden, slow drip sounding echoes within a dark, damp stone passage.
A sudden, rhythmic flap sounding follows as bats fly through the deep shadows of the ancient stonework. A sudden, slow drip sounding and a sudden, soft drop sounding echo as Kira lies unconscious on the dark stone floor of an ancient passage.
A sudden, quick blink sounding follows as her green eyes flutter open in the dim light of the corridor.
A sudden, rhythmic tremble sounding and a sudden, cold shiver sounding accompany Kira as she groans in pain, her uniform caked in mud and scrapes. The girl sits up and gazes around the mysterious underground hallway, looking bewildered.
She remains seated on the stone floor, attempting to regain her bearings in the darkness.
Torches flicker along the massive, ancient walls of the empty stone corridor.
A sudden, quick dash sounding follows as someone's voice calls out for Emily from the distance.
Emily rushes into view, expressing her immense relief at finally finding her missing teammate.
The blonde-haired girl looks at her friend with shock, urgently asking Kira if she's been injured.
Kira reassures her that she only has minor scrapes and asks how Emily is doing after their tumble.
A sudden, quick dash sounding follows as Emily approaches, explaining she merely got dirty while rushing down the steep hill to find her. A sudden, warm hug sounding follows as the blonde girl embraces her friend, admitting how deeply worried she was.
Emily looks around at the massive stonework, questioning the nature of their current location.
The pair considers their surroundings, noting they are in the middle of a forest and wondering if the structure is a cave. A sudden, bright flare sounding follows as Emily summons fire magic to light the dark passage, suggesting the area might be a monster shelter.
Kira recalls Jake's warning about booby-trapped tombstones, and Emily agrees that a hidden underground shelter makes sense.
Kira suggests it is safer to wait for rescue in the shelter rather than trying to find a way out, and Emily agrees.
Emily explains that she already sent a signal butterfly and asked Jake to notify the professors of their situation.
Kira remembers that Jake tried to stop Emily from coming after her because of the extreme danger in the woods.
Holding a bundle of sticks, Emily admits she had to help her friend and used her fire magic as an excuse to convince Jake to let her go. A sudden soft touch sounding and a sudden soft crackle sounding follow as Kira watches her friend start a small fire. A sudden soft pop sounding and a sudden low sizzle sounding follow as the girls warm themselves by the small, comforting blaze.
Kira gazes into the flames, asking Emily for her thoughts on what caused the incident at the cliffside.
Emily reveals the shocking detail that she felt a deliberate shove on her back before they fell.
The blonde girl recalls seeing a witness lurking in the shadows during the chaos of the fall. Flashbacks of dark hair and purple flowers trigger a memory, making Emily wonder if Miss Chloe was the one responsible.
She wonders to herself if Chloe pushed Kira as a deliberate act of revenge.
A sudden, steady stare sounding follows as Emily watches her friend, feeling conflicted about sharing her suspicions.
A sudden, tired sigh sounding follows as Emily considers the possibility that a monster might have been the one to shove her instead.
She worries that telling Kira the truth would be a huge shock, especially since Kira was planning to apologize to Chloe.
Kira sits in quiet contemplation, staring down at her muddy boots.
Emily decides the prince is better suited to help Chloe, while Kira asks what she is thinking about so intensely. A sudden soft ah sounding follows as Emily quickly dismisses the question, claiming it was nothing.
A sudden sharp snap sounding follows as the campfire flares up between the two students.
Emily watches her teammate with a soft, concerned expression.
Kira remains quiet, looking toward the dark corners of the vast stone room.
Kira confesses that she isn't sure she could have been as brave and wishes she possessed useful magic like Emily's fire.
A sudden, loud, startled sound follows as Emily reacts with surprise to her friend's unexpected self-doubt.
Kira credits Emily for her safety and feels guilty that her own mistake led to Emily falling down the hill.
With a warm smile, Kira tells Emily that she is the one who truly deserves thanks for everything. Emily gazes at her friend, feeling heartened and surprised by the sincere praise.
She offers snacks that Jake gave them, apologizing that they picked up a little dirt during the search.
Kira remarks on how massive the chamber is and how much their voices echo throughout the structure.
A sudden cheerful ha-ha sounding follows as Kira proposes exploring a little, and Emily is glad to see her feeling better. Emily hopes they might find blankets or other useful supplies if the place is truly a shelter.
The pair discovers an ancient wooden door and rocks of old weapons within the hallway.
Kira is amazed to see items in person that she has only ever read about in books, and Emily agrees.
They walk along an internal stone canal, wondering if it was for drinking water while noting the slippery ground.
A sudden, heavy step sounding follows as the two girls continue deeper into the ancient structure.
The students stand in awe before a magnificent, towering stone obelisk covered in mysterious glowing runes. Emily notices the dusty inscription on the stone, prompting Kira to use her magic to clear it.
A sudden, sharp ah sounding and a sudden, loud whoa sounding follow as Emily is enveloped in a cloud of dust while coughing.
A sudden, heavy cough sounding and a sudden, wet splutter sounding follow as Kira rushes to check on her choking teammate.
A sudden, rough scratch sounding accompanies Emily as she complains about her eyes burning and her face itching.
A sudden, firm grab sounding follows as Kira stops her friend from scratching, warning that the sand will damage her skin.
A sudden, light shake sounding follows as a dusty Emily apologizes, though her teammate insists she is the one who should be sorry. Kira reassures her friend and suggests she brush the dust off her face gently.
A sudden, soft tap sounding follows as Emily touches the stone, identifying the ancient language revealed by Kira's magic.
A sudden, sharp rattle sounding startles Emily as the ancient structure begins to shake.
A sudden, deep rumble sounding follows as the two girls stare in shock at the shifting chamber.
A sudden, terrified ah sounding follows as the pair attempts to run from the glowing monolith. A sudden, blinding flash sounding fills the corridor with brilliant light. A sudden, loud ah sounding follows as the girls scream during the intense magical flare.
A sudden, bright flash sounding follows as a swirling orb of blue energy materializes.
A sudden, quick spin sounding and a sudden, sharp halt sounding follow as a stream of mana pursues the fleeing students. A sudden, loud whoosh sounding surprises Emily as the magical energy surges past her.
A sudden, magical sparkle sounding accompanies the girls as their hands begin to glow with blue light.
A sudden, soft roll sounding follows as the concentrated mana moves across the floor.
A sudden, gentle shimmer sounding follows as Emily asks Kira if she can feel her mana being replenished. A sudden, bright shimmer sounding follows as the pair marvels at the impossible recovery of their energy. A sudden, low mumble sounding follows as Kira deciphers the stone, concluding it is a mana refill station.
Emily wonders if the stone was meant for battle recovery before asking if Kira can read ancient languages.
Kira admits she only knows a small amount from her magic history class. A sudden, amazed wow sounding follows as Emily realizes Kira is the rare student who actually pays attention to the textbooks.
A sudden, loud crack sounding startles the girls as they realize someone is breaking through to their location.
An urgent voice screams for someone not to break the valuable artifact. The voice scolds another student for cutting the door instead of calculating a formula, receiving a half-hearted apology in return.
The two girls look on in bewilderment at the unseen argument. Kira apologizes for her desperation and promises to be more careful once they find the others.
The teammates rejoice at the prospect of finally leaving the underground chamber.
A sudden, rapid dash sounding follows as a voice calls out for the missing girls. Someone urges the pair to hang tight while they search for them.
Kira recognizes the voice.
Flowers frame a moment of tension as a worried Eden appears. The black-haired boy calls out the names of his missing schoolmates in relief. Emily confirms they are safe while Kira asks Eden how he managed to locate them. A sudden, tired puff sounding follows as Eden explains Jake gave him the information before rushing off. In a flashback, Jake warns Eden that his teammates are missing and asks him to notify the professors.
A sudden, steady march sounding follows as Eden recalls the recent chaos while walking through the woods.
A sudden, tired sigh sounding follows as an annoyed Eden notes that William's group is nearby.
Dark energy fades into a transition. A student asks about Jake's disappearance and mentions Emily and Kira are also missing. A sudden, sharp whirl sounding follows as a gray-haired girl named Serena offers her assistance. Serena excitedly displays a monster intercept weapon she has only ever read about.
A sudden quick spin sounding and a sudden frantic shake sounding follow as Serena is introduced to the rescued students.
Kira thanks the newcomer for risking her safety to help them.
Serena explains her academic interest in the ruins but complains about the brute force used to open the door. A sudden, dizzying spin sounding follows as the enthusiastic Serena expresses her desire to stay and study the site. The girl quickly changes her mind, deciding to return to the academy to organize an official expedition.
Eden leads the way through the dark passage as Emily summons fire to light their path.
Eden, Emily, Kira, and Serena walk together through a stone corridor overgrown with purple flowers.
Serena notes that the wall was originally engineered to function as a magic stone.
She points out the indoor canal, wondering if it served as a protective moat.
The enthusiastic girl identifies ancient magical formulas etched into the stone walls.
Eden finds the situation strange while Serena and Kira joke about each other's eccentricities.
Eden gazes ahead with a serious, contemplative expression.
The three girls react with collective shock to a sudden discovery.
Serena is bewildered, recalling that there were no forks in the path earlier.
Eden confirms he also noticed the layout change while mapping the walls with his hand.
Emily asks about the physical properties of illusions, and Serena confirms she is the expert.
Eden points out a solid wall that appeared where the path used to be.
He leads the group further in and asks Serena to investigate the area. Serena concludes that the entire interior of the structure has physically shifted.
A sudden, deep, silent sounding marks the group's realization that the moss and fog are also new.
Serena is baffled by the silent, magical transformation of the corridors. A sudden, heavy plunk sounding follows as Serena collapses, panicking about being trapped forever.
Kira comforts the sobbing girl who blames herself for investigating too much.
Kira reassures her that they all shared the same curiosity and it is not her fault.
Emily urges the group to take a deep breath and remain calm.
A sudden, sharp shing sounding follows as Eden draws his sword, asking if he should destroy the ruins.
The black-haired boy focuses his intensity on the obstacles ahead.
Eden instructs Serena to recalibrate her detection magic to its original location.
He declares his intention to find a way to break through the physical walls.
Eden asks for help to find the shortest path to minimize energy use and damage.
Emily warns of a possible cave-in while Kira defends Lord Valenti's combat skills.
Serena recalls how Eden sliced through the iron door with perfect precision.
Emily voices her disagreement with the plan to use brute force.
Something unexpected catches the attention of the four students. Emily argues the walls appeared to protect them since the structure was a shelter. She notes that a defensive system's controls would logically be located on the inside. Eden looks at Emily, considering the logic of her theory.
Emily smiles brightly, trusting that the school professors will eventually rescue her.
Chibi versions of Eden and Kira agreed to follow Emily's new plan. Emily notes to herself that the core problem remains a mystery.
A sudden, bright beam sounding accompanies Emily's determined and radiant smile.
The blonde girl turns away, privately pondering the situation.
A sudden, low crackle sounding follows as the group gathers around a fire to brainstorm.
Notes list the various reasons why escaping through air vents or canals is impossible.
The dejected students sit by the fire, realizing their original entrance is completely blocked.
A sudden, tired sigh sounding follows as Kira realizes a monster refuge would be heavily booby-trapped.
Eden admits he sliced the door because it lacked a handle and required a mana circuit.
Kira looks thoughtful as the group continues to analyze the structure's security.
Emily points out that any abnormal unlock attempt would trigger a security mechanism.
Eden realizes his forceful entry likely signaled an invasion and triggered the defensive walls.
He expresses relief that Emily calmed them down before he triggered an even stronger defense.
A sudden, quick pack sounding and a sudden, sharp punch sounding follow as Serena scolds Eden for his rashness.
A sudden, low flinch sounding follows as Serena cowers while Kira downplays Eden's mistake.
Emily proposes that any disarming mechanism must have been built within the structure.
She suggests the massive glowing stone holds the key for a skilled magic user to exit.
Kira wonders if such powerful magic requires a large physical medium.
Eden suggests they spread out to investigate, deciding to read the stone again while Serena inspects the artifacts and Kira looks at the weapons. Kira ponders her knowledge of illusion magic, realizing she had only ever considered the importance of mass. She reasons that making a magical medium too small would be dangerous and notes that the ancient creators clearly prioritized security. Chibi Serena is delighted as she explains that older mechanisms might take unfamiliar physical forms, noting the wall itself was engineered to function as a magic stone. A sudden rapid dash sounding follows as Emily rushes through the corridor, wondering if a structure within the relic is serving as the magical medium. Emily presses her hand against the stone wall, but concludes it is not the source they are seeking. She continues her search along the shifting masonry.
The blonde girl grows frustrated as another section of the wall proves to be a dead end.
Emily is startled by a sudden shout as someone calls out Kira's name. A sudden, joyous shout follows as Kira identifies the discovery as a mana absorption stone. Emily agrees with the revelation while Kira urges her teammate to take a closer look at the unique material.
A sudden, rapid dash sounding follows as Serena and Eden arrive, with the gray-haired girl asking if they found something and inquiring about the nature of a mana absorption stone.
Kira explains that these stones have faint patterns and absorb mana, making them the perfect conduits for controlling a complex mechanism. Emily notes that they are hidden in plain sight because they look like typical rocks to the untrained eye. Kira excitedly tells Serena that she used the information the gray-haired girl provided to solve the puzzle. A sudden loud wail sounding follows as a tearful Serena worries she was only an obstacle, but Kira reassures her that she still needs her specialized help. The group marvels at the fact that the solution was right under their noses, having never imagined the medium would be a massive column and wall. Emily prepares to inject her mana, noting that she has experience from school and won't need a complex formula to activate it.
The blonde girl focuses her resolve.
A sudden, deep inhale sounding follows as Emily tells herself to move carefully. A sudden, loud whoosh sounding follows as magic begins to swirl around the blonde student, who concentrates on composing her mana flow. A sudden, soft rustle sounding follows as the scene shifts to a bright, sunlit forest.
Sunlight sparkles through the lush green canopy.
A sudden, heavy plunk sounding follows as a student with long dark hair collapses in despair, regretting her decision to attend class.
The girl laments the disappearance of 2 people, realizing this outcome was never her intention.
A sudden, loud whoosh sounding follows as the scene returns to Emily, who remains deep in her magical concentration.
A sudden, bright dazzle sounding follows as Emily asks Serena if she remembers the formula used at the entrance.
Emily explains that she is successfully connected to the relic's controls through a mana circuit. Serena excitedly realizes that Emily is attempting to use the regular magical method to open the doors.
Chibi Emily explains that undoing the problem at its source should return everything to its original state.
Chibi Kira adds that this method is faster than calculating an entirely new spell from scratch.
Serena is amazed that Kira planned to ask for her help in this way, eagerly agreeing to finish her calculations despite the sudden rhythmic but dumb sounding of her heart.
A sudden quick slide sounding follows as Serena focuses on the task at hand.
A sudden loud whoosh sounding and a sudden bright flare sounding follow as a massive pillar of light erupts from the ancient mechanism. The ancient stone hallway stands empty. A sudden deep silent sounding follows as the group waits for the results of their efforts.
A sudden flustered sounding follows as Serena panics over the lack of response, but Emily reassures her that the plan worked. Kira realizes with excitement that they were dealing with wind magic rather than illusions.
Emily explains that a spell had blocked the flow of air, which is why nobody heard the massive walls moving.
Kira gazes in wonder at the true nature of the structure's magic. Serena notes that they didn't notice the moss or fog at first because their senses were being suppressed. Serena tells Eden it makes sense he would think that way since swordsmanship students undergo intense sensory training.
Eden confirms that the training helps develop their spiritual senses. A sudden quick vanish sounding follows as Eden steps into the dark corridor to investigate, prompting Kira to ask if he needs light.
Serena assures her he will be fine, while Emily admits she had no idea Lord Valenti's senses were so sharp.
A sudden quick appear sounding follows as Eden returns, announcing that the paths have finally returned to normal. A sudden rhythmic but dumb sounding follows as the 3 girls react with awe to the successful restoration of the hallway.
A sudden bright sparkle sounding follows as the trio rejoices in their success.
Eden gazes at his teammates with a quiet look of approval. Flowers frame the moment as the black-haired boy declares that they can finally leave.
A sudden, joyful yay sounding follows as Serena, Emily, and Kira celebrate their success, finally feeling safe after their ordeal.
Emily's face is lit with a soft, radiant smile of pure relief. The group agrees to get moving, and Lord Valenti is asked to lead the way out since he already knows the path. A sudden quick run sounding follows as Emily tries to keep up, but she realizes she needs to hurry more than her body allows.
A sudden shaky wobble sounding follows as Emily's legs give out beneath her.
The black-haired boy's gaze sharpens as he notices her struggle. Eden catches the blonde girl just in time, holding her steady.
Emily insists she is fine, explaining that her legs simply gave out for a moment.
Eden asks Kira to lead the way while he offers to help Emily walk the rest of the distance.
A sudden rhythmic but dumb sounding follows as Emily realizes how close Eden is, her heart racing as he makes her nervous once again.
The black-haired boy looks at her with concern, asking if she is truly okay and sure she can walk. A sudden quick whirl sounding follows as a chibi version of Emily spins around frantically, insisting she is totally fine while a chibi Eden watches with confusion.
Eden continues to support the weakened blonde girl as they navigate the structure. Emily produces a small magical flame for light, noting to herself that at least they are still following far behind Kira.
Voices echo from the darkness ahead, with rescuers calling out to ask if everyone is safe and specifically checking for Kira and Emily.
Emily and Serena shout back with excitement, signaling their location and telling the rescuers they are right here.
The rescue team expresses relief that everyone is safe and instructs each student to take a seat in the arrival transport. A sudden, soft flutter sounding follows as magical baskets suspended by large blue butterflies descend toward the students.
A sudden, heavy sit sounding follows as Emily takes her place in one of the magical seats.
A sudden, loud whoosh sounding follows as the blonde girl is taken aback by how quickly the seat begins to rise.
A sudden, surprised oh sounding follows as Serena looks down into the darkness from her rising seat.
Emily peers over the edge of the basket, realizing she can no longer see the ground below. A sudden, firm grab sounding startles Emily as someone reaches for her. Eden stands beside her as the magical baskets continue to ascend through the dark. The black-haired boy asks Emily to allow him to help her properly onto her seat.
A sudden, warm blush sounding follows as the blonde girl turns away, feeling self-conscious. Eden carries the girl in his arms, pointing out that she is weak and breathing heavily, and he doesn't want her to trip in the darkness.
Emily leans her head against him, her face flushed with a deep red.
She thinks to herself that she truly cannot see well in the dim environment. Sunlight filters through a vision of a crying young man with dark hair.
A quiet whisper calls out the end of the blonde girl's name.
A sudden, warm blush sounding follows as Emily sits in her basket, her face glowing as she hears someone calling for her. A sudden, quick whirl sounding follows as chibi Emily spins in her basket, thanking Lord Eden while the butterflies flutter around her.
A sudden bright shine sounding marks the sighting of a glowing exit at the end in the stone corridor.
Emily shields her eyes as the group approaches the blinding light of the outdoors.
Professor Violet greets the students with a wave, calling for everyone to come toward her. The silver-haired woman repeat her call, urging the group toward safety.
A sudden, joyful, overjoyed sounding follows as the blonde girl cries out in happiness that they have finally escaped.
A sudden, rapid dash sounding follows as other students and staff run to meet them, with the silver-haired woman asking if anyone is hurt or if the girls are okay.
Professor Violet coordinates the rescue, stating she will take the injured magic students back to the academy while Professor Alex stays with the others. Professor Alex tells the remaining students to stop staring and return to their places immediately.
The scene shifts to the academy at night, with the majestic towers silhouetted against a starry sky and framed by purple flowers. Professor Violet expresses her relief that the three were not seriously injured and her shock that such a large relic went undiscovered in a supposedly excavated area.
She notes that the magical formula used in the ruins was incredibly complex and wonders how the students managed to navigate it on their own.
Emily and Serena explained that the structure was an ancient wizard shelter and that Emily's light magic was key to discovering the internal layout. The blonde girl gives credit to her teammates, noting they would have caught cold without Kira and she wouldn't have known where to start without Serena.
A sudden, gentle smile sounding follows as the silver-haired professor listens to her students.
Professor Violet tells the group she is very proud of them and instructs them to rest until tomorrow, promising to mark the day as a sick day for their attendance.
Emily, Serena, and Kira thank the professor from their beds, wishing for her to get some rest as well.
A sudden, cheerful goodbye sounding follows as a chibi Professor Violet waves to the students and tells them to have a good night.
A sudden, sharp click sounding follows as the focus shifts to Emily.
Serena offers a sincere apology to Emily and Kira, expressing her concern for Professor Violet and admitting her own impulsiveness in the forest caused their group trouble.
The blonde girl reassures Kira that her actions were well-intentioned and that she was only trying exclusive to find the magic orb.
Emily continues to defend her friend, calling the situation an accident and suggesting that Lord Valenti and the ancient creators are also to blame. The girl's eyes widen as she suddenly remembers something important.
A sudden, soft flop sounding follows as Serena collapses onto her bed, noting how nice the professor's healing aromatherapy smells after their long ordeal.
A sudden, rhythmic flop sounding follows as chibi versions of the girls lie down, with Emily thanking her friend and admitting she feels much better.
A sudden final flop sounding follows as Emily settles into her own bed to rest.
The girl's eyes slowly drift shut.
A sudden, sharp jolt sounding startles Emily awake in the quiet room.
A sudden quick bolt sounding follows as the blonde girl sits up in a panic, wondering if she has slept until evening. A sudden pained ow sounding follows as a chibi Emily clutches her back, complaining that all her muscles are aching.
A warm breakfast tray sits waiting beside the bed.
Emily picks up a letter in Afksar. The blonde girl looks toward the empty beds in the room. The letter explains that Serena left early to sign up for the expedition team and that they decided to let Emily sleep since she was resting so soundly. The message mentions a magical fire was lit to keep her breakfast warm and reminds her not to forget to eat.
A sudden, bright beam sounding follows as Emily looks at the food with a warm expression.
The writer of the letter promises to share their lecture notes later and says they will see her back in the room. Emily reflects on her gratitude for being saved, thinking to herself that she will never forget the kindness she's been shown.
A soft, peaceful smile touches her face. The breakfast tray stands empty after she finishes her meal.
A sudden, thoughtful sounding follows as Emily finishes eating, realizing she missed her chance to talk to the others and that they must be back in their dorms by now.
She gazes off with a serious look in her green eyes. Emily wonders if the ancient shelter reacted to the broken entrance as if it were an invasion. She questions why the path was only blocked after Lord Eden and Serena had successfully made it inside.
The blonde girl remains lost in her quiet contemplations.
A chibi Emily decides the whole situation must have been a simple malfunction due to the structure's age, telling herself to stop overthinking now that it is over.
She considers taking a walk to clear her head.
The scene shifts to the darkening sky over the academy.
While walking outside, Emily wonders if she feels cold because she is still recovering or because she is all alone in the quiet evening.
A sudden, light step sounding follows as she continues her walk.
A sudden, startled flinch sounding follows as Emily hears a voice shouting for someone to stop, scolding them for slipping out and ruining an expensive dress.
A sudden, bright sparkle sounding follows as the blonde girl spots a magic voice letter, realizing she is seeing one for the first time.
The dark-haired girl argues back that her father was the one who refused payment for the dress, while Emily decides the confrontation is too intense to get closer.
The voice from the letter claims he only let the matter go for her sake, prompting Emily to search for a quiet way to leave the area.
The father's voice continues to berate the girl for ruining her prospects with the Russell family and creating rumors about their wealth.
Emily looks on in shock as the voice asks how they could have possibly accepted that money.
The dark-haired girl thinks to herself that she never wants to see him again, while Emily realizes the gravity of the situation.
The letter screams Chloe's name, calling her selfish for failing to find a marriage prospect at the academy and bringing shame to the family name.
Emily realizes that Chloe is still at the academy and she begins to question the true identity of the person they encountered in the forest.
A sudden, sharp crackle sounding follows as the voice letter demands that Chloe quit the academy and return home immediately. A sudden, tense clench sounding follows as the dark-haired girl defiantly asks why she should have to leave. A sudden, angry rage sounding follows as the father screams about her acting like a fool in front of the prince's lady and falling out of favor.
The girl thinks bitterly that she only acted that way because the dress they bought for her meant so much to her.
A sudden, messy splash sounding and a sudden, bubbling gurgle sounding follow as the magical letter is destroyed mid-sentence. A sudden, tight squeeze sounding and a sudden, repetitive step sounding follow as the girl begins to walk away, making Emily worry she is about to be discovered.
The dark-haired girl stands with her back to the trees.
The girl turns around with an angry, tearful expression and demands to know who is hiding in the shadows.
A sudden, firm squeeze sounding follows as she glares into the darkness.
Emily Adesio formally introduces herself to the dark-haired girl, Chloe, while apologizing for unintentionally eavesdropping on her private moment.
Chloe is visibly shaken by the encounter, her eyes widening in a sudden, startled gasp sounding. Chloe breaks down into a sudden, emotional sob sounding, while Emily tries to soothe her and suggests they sit down for a moment.
A sudden, shaky sniff sounding escapes Chloe as she agrees to move to a more private spot.
The two girls sit together on a park bench under the soft glow of street lamps as Emily asks if she is starting to feel better.
Chloe remains deeply distressed, struggling to explain the complicated feelings that led to her actions.
Chloe admits she was blinded by anger when she saw the other girl in class acting as though nothing had happened.
Emily asks for clarification on when Chloe entered the forest, and Chloe explains she had rushed back to the academy that morning.
Chloe confesses that her goal was to see Kira fail and get her clothes dirty after watching her join the tardy search group. She explains that she fled the scene immediately and had no idea that Kira had actually fallen and gotten hurt. Emily listens with a heavy expression before telling Chloe that she must never repeat such behavior and must apologize to Kira. Chloe promises to apologize to the commoner if it means Emily will forgive her for the incident.
Chloe desperately pleads with Emily to keep the matter a secret from Professor Violet. Emily grows suspicious, questioning if Chloe's apology is sincere or just an attempt to avoid punishment.
Chloe tearfully explains that her parents would permanently remove her from the academy if she received any demerits for her behavior.
Emily contemplates Chloe's situation, realizing the girl is more afraid of the consequences than the act itself.
Chloe lashes out at Emily for eavesdropping, though Emily knows the truth about her involvement could have remained hidden.
Emily eventually agrees to keep the secret on the condition that Chloe apologizes to Kira immediately. She warns Chloe that her reckless actions didn't just cause an injury, but could have turned into a life-threatening disaster.
Chloe reacts with a sudden, stunned gasp sounding as she considers the danger she inadvertently created.
A sudden, guilt-stricken sob sounding escapes Chloe as she worries about the trouble she caused for Valenti and the others.
Chloe reveals that she had followed the group and witnessed them vanish suddenly into thin air. She describes how she eventually discovered a hidden entrance that resembled ancient ruins. Emily is horrified to hear that Chloe was at the ruins and demands to know what she did at the site. Chloe admits she triggered a mechanism with magic, resulting in a sudden, radiant plonk sounding that sent her running away in a panic. Chloe calls herself pathetic and begs for Emily's forgiveness once more.
Emily explains the severity of the situation, noting that the group could have been trapped underground forever.
Emily insists they go together right now to Kira's room so Chloe can make amends for her actions.
Emily gazes thoughtfully into the distance as they prepare for the confrontation. The night sky frames the towering spires of the silent academy building. A silhouette shows someone approaching a closed door in the quiet halls. Emily pushes the door open and is startled to find someone already inside.
Emily brings Chloe into the room to face the person waiting there. Emily watches with an expectant expression as the meeting begins.
Chloe and Kira stand before each other in a room filled with the scent of yellow roses. Bright flowers decorate the edges of the room.
Delicate white blossoms accent the floral arrangement.
A hand turns the door handle with a sudden sharp clack sounding as the door is closed.
Emily lets out a sudden, long pew sounding of relief after the emotional ordeal.
Emily reflects on the massive amount of new information she has to process after tonight's revelations.
She feels satisfied that the apologies were exchanged and that things worked out for the best. Emily is glad that the mystery of the ruins has finally been solved to satisfy her curiosity.
She admits that she had suspected Chloe from the start and had been keeping a close eye on her.
Emily expresses a sense of guilt for not being honest about her suspicions sooner.
Kira smiles warmly at Emily and expresses her deep gratitude for the protection and support.
Emily hides a lingering doubt, knowing Chloe wasn't truly sorry for the malice behind her actions.
A sudden rhythmic knock-knock sounding echoes through the hallway the following morning.
A woman with dark brown hair looks up from her desk, wondering who could be visiting.
Emily stands at the office door, appearing somewhat nervous as she is called inside.
Kira sits alone and contemplates a shimmering letter addressed to Lily and Chloe, feeling a sense of unease. The white-haired girl calmly asserts that she is already aware of the situation. Her golden eye narrows as she reviews the report, noting that Emily's vague verbal complaint about Chloe fortunately prevented a deeper investigation that might have implicated them. Walking through her grand chambers, she decides not to intervene, fearing that any further action would bring unwanted scrutiny upon her house. As a letter takes flight with a sudden, soft flutter sounding, she dismisses the matter, having expected little else from the start.
She remains stoic, her gaze fixed on something unseen.
Watching the dark flowers bloom, she reflects on Chloe's desperation and the social consequences of a confession, noting how the girl is now pulling innocent bystanders into her mess.
A moment of static tension ripples through the air. In a past memory, a brown-haired student cries out in shock as her parents command her to remain hidden for a while.
A floating magical document warns Miss Allen that prolonged absence from the academy leads to expulsion and that her safety outside the gates is not guaranteed.
Facing the levitating paper, the girl expresses her deep gratitude to the Milet family, but fears the consequences of using a prohibited magic stone again. The white-haired woman sighs, explaining that the stone is merely a replica of an ancient wartime tool designed to drive powerful wizards into a violent madness.
She reassures her that students lack the mana to trigger a disaster, while the stable power of professors prevents accidental activation.
Miss Allen's purple eyes tremble as she argues that her own skill with concealment magic should be enough without the artifact.
The white-haired noblewoman smiles chillingly, ordering the girl to use her concealment magic to hide the stone and simply touch the commoner with it to finish the job.
Back in the present, she wonders why the stone failed, questioning with a sudden, sharp grind sounding if the fault lay with the artifact or the girl she tasked.
She concludes that a far more potent weapon will be necessary for her next attempt.
Sunlight bathes the academy towers as a professor explains that while creating tangible objects from illusion is theoretically impossible, certain time-based exceptions exist. As a student snoozes nearby, Emily struggles to stay awake during the complex lecture on substance transformation and mass maintenance.
The silver-haired professor adjusts his glasses, demanding that the class wake up and focus because the material will be on the upcoming midterm. Emily gasps, her attention captured by a sudden, frantic, startled sounding at the mention of the high-stakes exam.
Late into the night, she sighs and hunches over her notes, telling herself that her grades are the only thing she has to show for her year of hard work. Her concentration is broken by a sudden light drop sounding as a paper airplane lands directly on her open textbook. She picks up the folded paper with a sudden quiet rustle sounding, wondering who could have sent it.
The note invites her to an afternoon tea in the eastern part of the campus later that day.
During the next day's lecture, Emily catches a sudden, quick glance sounding from a long-haired student sitting behind her.
Sophia, a girl with long blue hair, smiles warmly at her from across the room.
Emily returns the gesture with a sudden, soft chuckle, feeling a bit more at ease.
Sunlight glints off the peaceful garden.
Dressed in a delicate pink gown, the blonde girl stands in the garden holding the invitation.
She wonders if she has found the correct location, noting that she arrived quite early after taking the time to change her clothes.
She recalls that Kira was occupied with a meeting, meaning she would have to attend the tea party on her own.
Her eye widens in sudden surprise.
An elegant table is set with towers of sweets and a steaming pot of tea, filling the air with a wonderful aroma.
Sophia greets Emily with a cheerful wave, asking if she has already encountered the waitstaff.
Laughing, Emily admits she has only just arrived and asks what all the elaborate preparations are for.
The blue-haired girl invites her to take a seat, explaining that she wanted to host a proper afternoon tea just for her and insisting there is no need to apologize for not bringing anything. Sophia admits how shocked she was by Emily's injury, explaining that she visited the hospital but didn't want to disturb her sleep, so she rushed to organize this once Emily returned to class.
She looks at Emily with a hopeful expression, worrying that she might be causing an inconvenience. Surprised by the kindness, Emily assures her that a simple note would have sufficed, but thanks her for the effort.
Sophia laughs, stating she preferred to check on her in person to ensure she was truly recovered.
The peaceful moment is interrupted by a sudden, sharp rustle sounding from the nearby bushes. Emily turns her head quickly, her green eyes fixed on the moving leaves.
She is startled to see a black-haired boy standing just a few feet away.
The boy looks at her with a quiet, somewhat intense expression.
Sophia gasps in recognition at the unexpected best.
The newcomer offers a polite greeting with a sudden, formal bow sounding.
Sophia Ponce introduces herself while the boy asks the two ladies if they were in the middle of enjoying their afternoon tea.
The black-haired boy tells Emily he has been worried about her since her return and apologizes for the delay in checking on her health after the accident.
Emily thinks about how close he is standing, while he simply repeats that he wanted to be certain she was okay.
The blonde girl asks Sophia for a moment of privacy so she can have a quick word with Lord Eden, and her friend happily obliges.
Sophia hides her face while blushing, wondering if there is something romantic developing between the two students. Sunlight glimmers through the garden as Emily tells Lord Eden that his intervention at the ruins prevented the structure from reshuffling.
When Lord Eden asks for clarification, the blonde girl explains that Chloe attempted to enter the ruins while following him and Serena.
He looks on in utter shock at the unexpected revelation. Emily confirms the story, leading the black-haired boy to wonder why his spiritual senses failed to detect another student in his group.
Lord Eden falls into a quiet, contemplative mood.
While he suspects Chloe used detection magic, Emily quietly wonders if a specific spell was used to mask the girl's presence.
Lord Eden notes that Chloe could have simply joined them, making Emily hesitate to reveal the girl's true intentions.
She decides that explaining Chloe's plot against Kira would be too complicated and time-consuming.
Determined to move past her role as a victim, she also worries that the truth might make Lord Eden feel responsible for his groupmates' actions.
Emily offers a vague explanation about Chloe changing her mind, and Lord Eden accepts the answer despite his lingering doubts.
Lord Eden offers a gentle smile. He admits that his own behavior that day felt reckless, finally giving Emily the context she was looking for.
He expresses regret for being unhelpful, but Emily quickly reminds him that they would still be trapped without his help.
He watches her with soft eyes.
Emily feels a sudden, intense rush of embarrassment, trying to play off her reaction as a normal occurrence.
Lord Eden warns her that many people lack basic decency and do not deserve her warm consideration.
They share a quiet, lingering moment.
Realizing he might sound harsh, he clumsily clarifies that he isn't one of those people, though he finds her far more thoughtful than himself.
He promises to respect her wishes and stop investigating the matter, though Emily realizes he is already suspicious of her secret.
He leaves her with a final warning to stay away from people she cannot trust.
Emily watches him walk right along.
Lord Eden casts a final glance. The academy towers bask in sunlight.
White roses bloom around the garden.
The blonde girl cringes with embarrassment, scolding herself for fleeing in a rush once again.
Emily argues with her own inner thoughts about how difficult it is to stay calm when someone so handsome is standing so close.
A mysterious glint catches her eye.
Sophia leans in with an excited expression, ready to return to their afternoon tea.
Emily shouts in shock as her friend makes a bold suggestion about her visitor.
Sophia gushes about how romantic it is for a boy as distant as Lord Valenti to visit out of worry. They resume their elegant tea party. Sophia explains that Lord Valenti is nicknamed the Ice Flower because he is cold, yet he looked at Emily with a warmth she has never seen before. Emily sighs over her tea, stating she needs to focus on her studies to ensure her future. Sophia cheekily suggests that Emily is simply planning to marry the black-haired lord as a backup prospect. A sudden, sharp clatter sounding follows as Emily sets her cup down, recalling her mother's warnings about dating above her social class. Sophia argues that his status as a second son makes a match possible, but Emily remains skeptical of such relationships ever working out. She reflects on the harsh reality that high-ranking nobles often abandon their partners after graduation to marry within their own social circle. Emily considers the lifelong social damage a woman suffers after being abandoned by a prominent family. She recalls her mother's warning that falling for someone out of her league leads to regret and social isolation once the relationship inevitably ends. Sophia is taken aback by the specific detail of the story, which Emily admits happened to a close friend.
The blue-haired girl notes that Mrs. Tina is currently suffering through a very similar ordeal. Emily looks on in shock as Sophia mentions the rumors about Astina's failed engagement to the second prince.
The scene shifts to a memory of Prince Lucas showing a sudden public interest in Kira while Astina's reputation suffered. Sophia recounts the cruel gossip painting Astina as an arrogant aristocrat who was replaced by a commoner for lacking beauty.
A sudden, soft plop sounding follows as a piece of ice is dropped into the tea. Sophia prepares to dive deeper into the story as she adjusts her drink. She notes that the tale she is about to share is already a well-known story within high society.
The conversation shifts to the familial connection between Lady Lily and Prince Lucas.
Sophia explains that Lady Lily's father is the Empress's second brother, confirming her powerful status within the kingdom.
The narrator explains that the second prince and Lady Lily have always been close, noting that Miss Astina was also a member of their social group.
Flashback to a dark night. The narrator asks Emily if she wonders how a stranger like Miss Astina got close to the royal family, revealing she saved Lady Lily from a violent assailant.
The blue-haired girl is impressed to learn that the young, red-haired Astina used her fiery personality and light magic to drive away the attacker.
As a sign of gratitude, the royal family granted Astina access to the palace, significantly raising the prestige of the Millet family name.
They eventually appeared together at the debutante ball.
Astina and Prince Lucas share a dance, looking radiant and happy in the spotlight.
The dark-haired girl cheers with a sudden, happy wow sounding.
Whispers spread throughout the court that Miss Astina was certain to become the second princess. The narrator laments that everyone expected a marriage, but Prince Lucas eventually stopped responding to Astina's constant attempts to contact him.
Prince Lucas further humiliated Astina by ignoring her in public and walking straight toward Miss Kira. Emily and Sophia discuss how the prince's continued dismissal of Astina led others to look down on her with a sudden, cold pass sounding. Gossipers add fuel to the fire, noting that the woman who stole the prince's heart is a mere commoner rather than a prominent noble.
Sophia shares that Lady Lily is reportedly enraged by the entire situation.
Lily remains fiercely loyal to Astina, despite the public scandal. Sophia warns Emily to stay away from the group for a while, suspecting they are plotting something, and Emily thanks her for the heads up.
Emily admits she is a newcomer to these social dynamics, while Sophia offers to keep her updated on all the latest rumors.
Emily becomes flustered, apologizing for making the mood so serious, but Sophia remains focused on her friend.
Sophia mentions she understands why Emily's mother wants to protect her from heartbreak, as evidenced by the story she just shared. She encourages Emily by noting she is only 16 and has plenty of time to recover from any regrets or mistakes she might make.
Sophia looks at her friend, preparing to offer an honest confession. She admits she wanted to apologize at the start of the year, but chose not to.
Sophia explains she feared Emily would reject her apology due to her friendship with Astina, deciding that silence was better for their relationship.
She admits she felt guilty about the decision, especially since they were forced to see each other in class.
She recalls how they were assigned to the same group for their studies. Sophia smiles warmly, declaring that meeting Emily was her favorite part of joining the academy. She laughs with a sudden, cheerful hee-hee sounding, expressing her gratitude for their afternoon tea together.
In a comical moment, Sophia clarifies she isn't suggesting marriage yet, acknowledging the uncertainty of the future.
Emily listens with wide, attentive eyes.
Sophia suggests it would be a shame to let genuine feelings pass by without acting on them. She notes that the intensity of a first love or a crush is something that can only be truly experienced while they are young.
Sophia is certain that if Emily's mother saw the expression on Lord Valentis' face, she would change her mind about the match.
Emily remains silent, lost in thought.
Emily thanks Sophia, stating that her mind feels much clearer now that she knows Sophia cares about her feelings.
She admits she initially suspected Sophia was only being kind to recruit her into Astina's social circle.
Sophia is startled, shouting that she never had such intentions while they sit at the tea table.
She insists that her only goal was to become Emily's true friend.
Sophia praises Emily for her calm demeanor during difficult times with a sudden, bashful sounding.
Shyly, Sophia thanks Emily for her friendship, while Emily admits she feels a bit embarrassed by the sincere gratitude.
Emily asks if Sophia has stopped associating with Astina altogether.
Sophia reveals her family depended on Count Milet's support, forcing her to stay on Astina's good side, which confirms Emily's suspicions.
She excitedly mentions a talented wizard who joined her family's business and developed a hit aromatic magic stone.
Sophia makes a sudden, quick dodge, sounding as she flees the scene, claiming her stomach hurts and she needs to sleep.
The two girls enjoy a final, peaceful moment at their table. Sophia laughs happily during the transition. A warm breeze carries the faint scent of black tea through the garden. The narrator reflects on the unique experiences of youth.
The scene shifts to the academy grounds as a teacher announces the first outdoor class for magic management.
Lainey Boggs, the magic management teacher, adjusts her glasses and prepares for the lesson.
As the teacher begins calling attendance by group, Emily notices that Kira has not yet arrived from the library.
A student's hand reaches toward a pillar of pink magical flames as the professor instructs the class to channel their primary magic with a sudden, powerful whoosh sounding.
Professor Lainey Boggs yawns as she admits that using magic exhausts her, encouraging students to show off their unique ideas during the demonstration. She warns the class that while this is a simple exercise, their performance may reflect on their scores, prompting a sudden, disappointed boo sounding from the students. The teacher begins calling attendance, starting with Miss Estina Millette as the surrounding crowd erupts with a sudden, quiet whisper sounding.
The red-haired girl approaches the training area with a sudden, determined approach sounding. Estina stands before the surging pink flames.
She focuses her energy on the task in hand.
A field of purple lilies appears as the girl prepares to manifest her light magic. Under the watchful eye of the professor, Estina concentrates on her magic.
Flowers bloom once more as she readies her power.
A sudden, intense shake sounding occurs as Estina releases multiple rays of brilliant light. Her magic manifests with a sudden, radiant shimmer, pop, and whoosh sounding. Professor Lainey is impressed by her control over the separate rays of light, while the other students react with a sudden, amazed wow sounding.
The teacher offers constructive feedback on mana management to improve consistency, and Estina politely thanks her.
Watching from the side, the blue-haired girl thinks to herself that the professor hasn't seen Estina's true potential yet.
Sophia is certain that Estina's magic is far more powerful than anyone realizes.
A cluster of orange roses fills the view. Sophia recalls how powerful Estina's magic was long before they joined the academy, frustrated by a sudden, angry grind sounding because her friend has been too stressed to perform at her best. She attributes this lack of performance to the cruel rumors that have been circulating.
Sophia takes her place at the flame as the professor prepares to evaluate her.
The blue-haired girl looks startled by the intensity of the flames.
She appears slightly nervous, even as her friend Emily cheers her on with a sudden, supportive cheer sounding. Sophia clenches her hands and prepares to cast her spell. She channels her power, creating swirling droplets of water in the air. A massive water creature takes shape with a sudden rhythmic ripple sounding as it leaps over the flames.
The creature splashes down with a sudden, powerful whoosh sounding, startling Sophia.
Professor Lainey takes notes on the performance while Sophia shares a lighthearted moment of relief.
Emily suddenly realizes she was so caught up in watching Sophia that she nearly missed her own turn.
The professor checks her list to see who is next.
Emily's name is called, and she quickly moves toward the training platform.
Walking forward with a sudden, rhythmic step sounding, Emily tries to calm her nerves.
She stands before the magic flames and reacts with a sudden, nervous gulp sounding.
Closing her eyes, she takes a sudden, steadying inhale sounding.
Emily unleashes a sudden, swirling whoosh sounding of wind magic toward the target.
Magical sparkles fill the air as her spell begins to take a physical form. The scene is flooded with bright, green energy. Emily focuses on creating a path of wind, successfully manifesting a group of grasshoppers that begin to move.
A sudden, sharp whoosh sounding follows as she directs the current with her hand.
She stays focused on making her manifestation as clear and accurate as possible.
A sudden, lively chirp sounding fills the air as Emily completes her impressive demonstration of nature-based wind magic. Professor Lainey is highly intrigued, noting that Emily's ability to manipulate sound frequencies is quite precise despite her small mana reserves.
The professor continues with a sudden, quiet mumble sounding, explaining that training will help Emily maintain her spells for longer durations. She confirms Emily's identity once more to ensure her records are correct.
Overjoyed by the positive feedback, Emily gives a bright and sincere thanks.
Her heart beats with a sudden, excited but dumb sounding as she steps down, just as Kira calls her name.
Emily greets Kira, who warmly praises her for the excellent performance. Emily offers her own encouragement to Kira, who heads toward the platform with confidence.
Kira approaches the magical flames with a sudden, focused approach sounding.
The blonde-haired girl looks determined as she prepares to start her evaluation.
The scene fades into a snowy memory as Kira's name is called out. Kira cries out for her grandmother in a hazy, traumatic memory.
A close-up of Kira's eye reveals a glowing purple intensity. A massive flare sounding of magic erupts, startling the onlookers.
Professor Lainey Boggs rushes forward with a sudden, urgent dash sounding, telling Kira to calm down.
The teacher warns that Kira is losing control and needs to pull back.
A powerful whoosh sounding fills the air as Kira releases the magical energy from her hand.
The spell ends with a sudden, quiet fizzle sounding as the professor asks the young lady for her name.
Panting with a sudden, heavy exertion sounding, the girl identifies herself as Kira. Professor Lainey points out that Kira's magic is fueled by emotion and warns that using rage is an outdated method.
She explains that such techniques often lead to magical complications or self-harm.
The professor requests a meeting in her office after class, and Kira politely accepts.
Professor Lainey dismisses the class, offering encouraging words about potential and improvement.
As the students depart with a sudden, lively bustle sounding, one girl asks Kira if she's heading back to her room.
Kira informs Emily that she must see the professor first, but will see her later.
Emily waves goodbye, agreeing to meet up afterward.
Emily watches Kira walk away with a sudden, rhythmic step sounding.
She looks toward the exit, her expression turning somber and thoughtful.
Emily is deeply unsettled by the realization that Kira uses rage to fuel her power.
She recalls Kira mentioning a desire for powerful protection magic, which contrasts with her cheerful appearance.
Emily reflects on how she has always made assumptions about Kira instead of having a real conversation.
A close-up of Emily's green eye shows her deep in concern and realization. As she ponders, someone approaches with a sudden, quiet approach sounding. The figure continues to draw closer to the distracted girl.
Sophia greets Emily with a sudden, cheerful hee-hee sounding and asks what she's doing.
In chibi form, Sophia asks Emily if she knows Jake Lindell from the swordsmanship department. Emily is confused by the unexpected and oddly focused question. Sophia gives a sudden, mischievous grin sounding as she looks at her friend. Emily reacts with a startled exclamation.
Sophia explains that Jake might know the location of a legendary study guide.
She leans in close, telling Emily to keep the information between them. While Sophia stresses the guide's legendary status with a sudden, sharp thud sounding, Emily remains skeptical. Sophia excitedly notes that they could even sell the guide if they found it. She leans in for a sudden, quiet whisper sounding to share more details.
Sophia promises to share all her resources if Emily assists her with the search.
Emily agrees to the plan, prompting Sophia to celebrate with a sudden, joyous yay sounding. At the swordsmanship grounds, training echoes with a series of sudden, rhythmic hap and haya soundings. Numerous students practice their sword techniques with a sudden, focused hop sounding. Standing nearby, Emily feels awkward and thinks she might be breaking a rule by being there. The two girls look on, feeling the awkwardness of watching the students train.
Sophia suggests they leave to avoid being misunderstood.
A red-haired man notices them and waves with a sudden, friendly wave and murmur sounding.
William Chase greets them loudly with a sudden, frozen sounding, calling for another student named Eden. Emily clarifies that they aren't actually looking for Lord Eden. She explains they are seeking someone else while William tells Eden not to bother coming over. A black-haired man stops suddenly with a sharp halt sounding. A close-up reveals the black-haired man's handsome and calm face.
Emily quickly apologizes to the man for the misunderstanding. Sophia asks why she's apologizing, but Emily notes the man looked genuinely saddened.
Emily worries that she's making a mistake in her approach. She explains they were looking for Jake Lindell, and the man asks if they came to visit him. With a sudden, quiet sniffle and sob sounding, Emily cries as the black-haired man worries that he is a sinner for making such a beautiful girl weep, though the blonde girl thinks to herself that they only wanted to ask a question about a study guide. Eden laughs as he struggles to maintain his composure, while William asks what happened, and the black-haired man clears his throat with a sudden, polite ahem, sounding to ask if they are looking for the legendary study guide.
Emily reacts with a sudden, warm blush sounding as she looks at the man.
Surprised by the mention of the guide, Emily's green eyes widen as the air fills with a sudden, bright flare sounding. William wonders if the guide actually exists, and Sophia explains that they heard Jake Lindell might know where it is. William is shocked that they didn't mention this sooner, exclaiming with a sudden, loud really sounding that he has been very curious about the guide himself. Moving with a sudden, quick dash sounding, William tells them to wait while he fetches Jake immediately as Eden looks on. Emily looks worried as she stands beside Sophia. A bead of sweat falls from Eden with a sudden, wet drip sounding. Eden wipes his face and mentions how sweaty he is, prompting a sudden, shocked gah sounding and a silent scream from the girls as he lifts his shirt.
Emily is incredibly embarrassed, questioning if this is a habit of his and thinking she will never get used to it.
Eden looks back as the girls try to ignore the awkward situation.
The trio walks away together with a look of slight discomfort.
Eden suggests they move to the main building's garden to talk, noting that their current location is too public for a secret discussion. Relieved by the change of scenery, Emily and Sophia share a sudden, light-hearted ha-ha sounding as they thank Lord Valenti for suggesting the garden. Sophia wonders why students from the swordsmanship department would be so knowledgeable about a study guide for the magic department. The two girls listen intently to the explanation.
Jake explains that many professors reuse test questions, leading to a market of fake study guides, while everyone remains obsessed with finding the real, accurate ones.
Sitting at a garden table, Sophia asks Jake if he really knows the location of the legendary guide. Jake finds it funny that word has spread about his knowledge of the guide's location.
He recalls how he once got lost in the woods northeast of the main building after being bullied by upperclassmen near the abandoned magic training grounds.
Jake describes finding a plaza with a large stone statue and a clean chest on a white altar that contained a single piece of paper. The girls react with sudden, wide-eyed surprise.
Jake explains that the paper was divided into sections like a manual or an outline rather than being a continuous page of text.
Emily and Sophia both realize the significance of his discovery. Eden notes that since the guide is rumored to only have 2 questions, a single sheet of paper would make sense. He asked Jake if he was able to take a closer look at what was written. Jake recalls that an invisible wall barred him from getting any closer to the altar.
The group is startled when Jake mentions that a ghost appeared, prompting the girls to gasp in shock.
He explains that the area has a reputation for being creepy, which is why people go there to test their courage. Emily is skeptical about the existence of ghosts, and Eden agrees that it probably wasn't a real one.
Jake assumes the ghost was likely a magical illusion created by the barrier.
With a sudden, eerie chill sounding, Jake admits there is still a possibility it was a real ghost, leaving the group feeling unsettled.
William laughs nervously with a sudden, forced ha-ha sounding, claiming he only ran away because he feared magical traps.
Emily suggests they just go to the library instead, but Sophia thinks to herself that she is now even more curious than before.
Sophia is thrilled by the mystery, while Emily reacts with a sudden, terrified what sounding.
Eden warns that the area is far too dangerous for the girls to visit. He decides that he will go alone to find the guide, despite the girls' immediate protests.
Sophia argues that he might not be able to bypass the magical barrier without a magic student by his side.
Emily continues to worry if the search is truly worth the risk.
Sophia offers to go alone if Emily is too scared, noting they can always turn back if things get dangerous.
Emily looks deeply conflicted as she considers the offer. Insisting on her presence, Emily says her illusion magic will be useful, while Chibi Sophia looks on with a confused expression.
William suggests they all go together, confident that the three swordsmen can ensure everyone's safety.
Jake is shocked to be included in the party, while Sophia is overjoyed by the plan.
With a sudden, energetic woohoo sounding, Sophia encourages Jake to join them, ignoring his protests that he previously got lost there.
A sudden, quiet tap sounding occurs as the men discuss their next moves.
William tells Eden not to be mad and suggests they can split into two groups, while their chibi forms react with a sudden, rhythmic tsk-tsk and shake sounding.
Sunlight pours through the glass roof.
Flowers bloom near the garden architecture.
The girls agree to meet at lunch on Saturday in broad daylight, while the wavy-haired girl expresses disbelief that she is actually going.
Kira decides to study with a sudden, playful hee-hee sounding as she pulls the door open.
Emily looks on with a sudden, inquisitive sounding.
Emily stares thoughtfully toward the window.
Emily startles with a sudden, sharp flinch sounding as someone approaches, and she exclaims in surprise.
Kira asks Emily what she's thinking about so intensely, noting that she looked completely lost in thought.
Emily looks away with somber thoughts.
Emily mentions thinking about Professor Laney, prompting a sudden, curious "oh" sounding from Kira as she asks for details.
Emily laughs as she explains her magic management issues and apologizes for burdening her friend with the information.
Kira ponders with a sudden, quiet sounding, noting she has never seen her friend look so down. Kira insists on hearing everything because they haven't spent time together lately, surprising the other girl.
The blonde girl decides to shower and listen to everything afterward as Kira's heart feels a sudden, emotional throb sounding.
Text explains that the professor warned it might be nearly impossible to use practical magic because of fixed habits.
Both girls sit in their pajamas.
Kira looks deeply concerned and thoughtful.
Clenching her hands with a sudden, firm clench sounding, Kira explains that using rage strengthened her powers and became a hobbit.
A red sky filled with dragons and fire appears as Kira explains the professor's warning about her outdated combat methods.
Emily admits she has never used magic for emotional expression, as a vision of her as a powerful destroyer appears while the girls giggle. Emily recalls reading that water, electrical, and fire magicians are easily influenced by their emotions.
Kira listens intently to the explanation.
Kira thinks with a sudden, quiet sounding, admitting her fire magic and personality likely contribute to her situation.
Standing up, Kira explains the danger of her mana going rogue if she cannot control her emotions.
Emily reacts with a sudden, panicked "oh no" sounding, and Kira gives a sudden, heavy sigh sounding while worrying about changing her methods.
Emily reflects on her own wind and light magic, feeling like she isn't much help. She compares Kira's frustration to walking blindfolded, wondering who could possibly have an answer for her. Emily asks a question that surprises Kira.
Emily suggests that Kira ask the professor for personal training, noting that academy teachers have a duty to help.
Kira looks at her Minsuppress.
Emily calls out Kira's name softly.
Emily laughs with a sudden, cheerful ha-ha sounding, claiming it isn't a big deal. Kira hugs her friend, admitting she was embarrassed, but is glad they finally talked. Something rumbles with a sudden, light-hearted rustle sounding as Kira jumps up in surprise. The wooden furniture begins to shake.
The room fills with a series of sudden, loud rattle soundings as Emily wonders what is happening. A sudden, sharp rustle sounding occurs nearby.
The egg on the floor shakes with a sudden, rhythmic rattle sounding as the girls realize it's the mana absorption stone.
Emily excitedly shouts that the mana pet is hatching at last.
The girls watch the egg closely.
The shell breaks open with a sudden, sharp crack sounding.
Emily reacts with a sudden, quiet "oh" sounding.
A yellow fluff ball moves with a sudden, energetic hop sounding, surprising the girls who expected something more intimidating.
The chick lands with a sudden, soft plop sounding, and Kira lets out a sudden, quiet pft sounding while saying it looks like Emily.
The chick moves with a sudden, quick flap sounding as the girls laugh about how adorable the creature is.
Emily tells Kira to be serious and save the jokes for the prince, prompting a sudden, lighthearted ha-ha sounding from Kira. Kira is horrified by the idea, saying she would be charged with contempt for joking with royalty.
Emily is confused, asking why it's an issue if they are interested in each other.
Kira asks Emily if she actually thinks there are feelings between her and the prince. The two girls stare in shock.
They both scream in denial simultaneously.
Emily asks if dating is allowed at the academy, and Kira gives a sudden, vigorous shake, sounding as she explains it's about her status.
Kira explains that the cost of meals at the academy is equal to her entire week's living expenses, making a sponsor necessary for her to stay in school. Surprised, Emily notes that Kira is on a scholarship, but Kira clarifies it only covers basic tuition and books, which previously left her searching for a job.
Kira recounts how Prince Lucas offered to sponsor her because of her status as an outstanding student, leading them to attend various events together.
Kira explains they attended the welcome banquet together and is shocked to realize Emily thought they were in a romantic relationship.
She emphasizes that losing her sponsorship would be a devastating blow to her education.
Emily reacts with a sudden, inquisitive sounding as she listens to her friend.
Kira admits she worried about being too conspicuous at the banquet, but she figured that if the prince saw no issue with their public appearance, she shouldn't fret either.
Emily looks down sadly, admitting she was wrong about the nature of their relationship.
Kira asks about rumors circulating in the academy, suspecting there are unpleasant whispers regarding her and the prince.
Emily brings up a specific name, asking about Miss Estina.
Dark purple flowers bloom against a somber background.
The blonde girl exclaims in surprise, having had no idea about the situation.
Kira realizes she misinterpreted Estina's behavior as hatred for commoners when she was actually dating the prince, while shadows of high society gossip loom. Emily suggests it would be best for Kira to tell the prince about the rumors herself, and Kira agrees to do so immediately. Kira expresses her gratitude to Emily for providing the information.
A close-up highlights Emily's thoughtful green eyes.
Emily mentions she only heard about the gossip through the grapevine and is glad she could help.
The scene shifts to the academy where students show off their mana pets, accompanied by a sudden, energetic wow and a busy bustle sounding.
Various creatures appear as mana pets, including an owl, a ferret, and a turtle.
Holding her chick, Emily is amazed at the diversity of pets and how they are influenced by their owner's magic type. Amidst a series of sudden rhythmic rattle, chills, and axe soundings for more intimidating pets, Emily's chick gives a sudden quiet peep and scritch sounding as a student asks if the bird is hers. A dark-haired girl gushes over how cute the little chick is, unable to believe its appearance.
The girl asks Emily if she is unable to see the other creature present.
A beautiful blue fish mana pet appears with a sudden, smooth swish sounding, swimming through the air near the dark-haired girl. The fish reacts with a sudden, sharp flinch as Emily reaches out to it. The girl explains that her pet is strangely shy, moving with a sudden, quiet burrow sounding into her hair.
Emily suspects she knows why the creature is acting that way, as the chibi versions of the girls react with a sudden, rhythmic, stiff, and sounding.
A voice notes that everyone's pets seem to have hatched successfully.
The silver-haired professor tells the class to take their seats with their new pets as the lesson begins.
Dropping a heavy book with a sudden, loud thud sounding, the professor says to wait a few days if a pet hasn't hatched yet, or visit the office for a new stone.
A student in the lecture hall raises his hand to ask a question.
A brown-haired boy with a lizard on his shoulder asks if students whose pets have already hatched can still receive a new stone. The professor looks at him through his glasses, asking if he truly wants to repeat the assignment he already finished.
The student clarifies that he is worried because he remembers the professor saying the pets will eventually disappear.
Hugging his lizard with a sudden, firm squeeze and low murmur sounding, the boy pleads for a way to keep the adorable creature around longer. Other students join the plea, sobbing and shouting that they want to keep their pets as well. The professor tells the class to settle down with a sudden, dismissive sheesh sounding, noting they still have a month or two with their pets.
He tells the students that keeping the pets for any longer than that is entirely up to them.
Emily stares intently at the little yellow chick perched on her shoulder. The professor explains that maintaining the pets helps manage mana, but most students lose interest once grades are settled, with no one keeping a pet alive for more than 3 months. He emphasizes the need for consistent mana injection, prompting Emily to agree, while another student complains that it sounds difficult.
A history lesson begins, detailing how wizards and witches 300 years ago required a staff to perform magic.
Writing on a board with a sudden, quick scribble sounding, the professor identifies the prodigy Escalante as the person who changed the world of magic.
Echolantes's innovative system was rejected by scholars who banished him, while a student lets out a sudden, quiet wow sounding while wondering how people carried staves everywhere.
A historical drawing depicts a group of magicians persecuting a young Echolante. Echolante was eventually accepted when monsters began multiplying dangerously, making every wizard an extremely valuable asset. Records show the skies were blood red from destructive monster magic, and the delay caused by using a staff was a fatal problem.
Echolante fixed the delay by utilizing mana circles for rapid response, and though the method caused injuries to some, he was powerful enough to do it effortlessly. The professor notes that while he had high mana reserves, some believe Echolante actually increased his capacity throughout his life.
The school bell rings with a sudden loud ring and sleepy Z sounding, causing the brown-haired boy to wake up with a sudden sharp jolt and startled sounding. As class dismisses, the professor reminds everyone that the new chapter will be on the test, prompting a sudden, energetic stampede, wow, tsk, and hee-hee sounding from the departing students. The bright sun filters through the vibrant green leaves. Kira stretches while complaining about how boring history class is, but Emily suggests she might be relying too much on her study guide before a voice calls out to them. William waves at the girls with a sudden, cheerful wave sounding. The dark-haired boy greets Emily with a formal good morning, asking if she remembers their planned adventure for Saturday, while William lets out a sudden, frantic ack and grab sounding. Kira and Emily confirm they haven't forgotten, though they admit they are feeling a bit worried about the trip. Kira asks the boys if they are planning on backing out, causing William to sweat nervously while denying the idea. William extends his hand with a sudden, quick extend sounding, revealing several rings. He explains that he purchased several protection magic stone rings for the group to use. Emily is amazed by the expensive craftsmanship, and the dark-haired boy explains that since William suggested the trip, he felt it was only right to buy the rings for everyone, though William protests the claim. The dark-haired boy notes that William even bought one for Jake and that they are already wearing theirs. William admits that while he can fight people with a sword, he is terrified of ghosts and has heard rumors of students fainting at their destination. Kira giggles with a sudden, quiet hee-hee sounding, confusing the boys. Kira tells William that if he is afraid of ghosts, he has nothing to worry about because the illusion magic students like Emily practice creating them. Emily explains that the ghosts people saw were likely just moving, faded illusion shapes created by students that shocked onlookers into thinking they were real spirits. Emily tells the terrified William that it isn't a big deal, but his expression suggests he feels exactly the opposite. William sighs with relief, glad they have an illusion expert in the group to help make him look heroic, though he still plans to rely on his protection rings. He suggests they try on the rings now to ensure a proper fit. Emily looks up in confusion. The dark-haired boy gently takes Emily's hand to help her with the ring. Delicate white and pink flowers frame the two as they stand close together. A close-up shows Emily's wide green eyes as she reacts with a sudden, silent blush sounding. The dark-haired boy looks at her with a soft expression and a sudden, quiet oh sounding while thanking her. He explains that the stone needs to face the inside of her hand to transfer its power, and Emily says she understands. Looking away with a blush, he stammers out a goodbye until Saturday. Kira waves goodbye while Emily stands perfectly still and dazed. The boys walk away under the shade of the trees. Kira and Emily watch them leave. Kira teases Emily with a sudden, playful jab sounding while wearing a knowing grin. Kira asks if there is something going on between the two of them, but Emily gives a sudden, panicked denial. Their conversation is interrupted by the arrival of a tall, dark figure, and Emily realizes with a start that it is Professor Karloff. The professor notes that he heard Emily specializes in sound magic and asks for confirmation. After Emily confirms it, he asks if she has heard any rumors regarding Professor Laney's class. Emily says she hasn't, and the professor tells her to come to his office after the 5th period. Emily agrees as the professor checks his watch, saying he is too busy to explain the details right now. The two girls stare in shock after he leaves. They panic, wondering if the professor knows about their plan to sneak into the forbidden area or if Emily is in trouble for her conduct. They stand frozen in the hallway, sweating from the sudden stress. Kira tries to reassure her friend, noting that it likely isn't anything bad since Emily doesn't sleep through class. Later that day, Emily stands nervously in front of the professor's door and greets him. Emily walks into the room. A chair moves with a sudden, sharp creak sounding. Something is set down with a sudden, heavy plunk sounder. Emily looks around at the massive stacks of books filling Professor Karloff's office. She wonders why she was summoned and worries that she might truly be in trouble. Something shifts with a sudden, loud clatter, startling her. Green leaves and pale roses frame the scene. Professor Karloff asks if it's true that she used magic to make certain sounds audible to the human ear, and Emily confirms it. Purple flowers bloom against a white background. The professor acknowledges her answer and activates a glowing blue magic stone with a sudden, powerful whoosh sounding. Professor Karloff explains that he intends to bridge the space through magic and asks Emily to use her sound magic to make the voice on the other side of the room audible to him with a sudden, resonant shoom sounding. Emily expresses hesitation since she has never used magic in a high mana environment, but Karloff assures her it will be easier since his magic has already prepared the way, prompting her to agree to try. Emily tells the old professor on the other side of the magical field that he can begin speaking now. Emily focuses intensely on her spell, exclaiming that she is ready to begin. A gust of magical energy swirls through the room with a sudden, forceful whoosh sounding as Emily invokes the wind.
Emily reacts with surprise, noting that the voice she is hearing is far from ordinary.
Glowing magical circles and energy patterns shift rapidly as the spell takes hold.
Mathematical and magical formulas manifest in the light as Emily realizes she can hear the voice clearly.
Karloff praises Emily's success, causing her to react with a sudden, startled jolt and jolt sounding. Emily looks at Professor Karloff in shock, demanding to know why she was asked to perform such a task. Vibrant yellow flowers grow by a sunlit window in the quiet office. While sipping tea, Karloff reveals that the man she heard is one of La Rosen's grand wizards, leaving Emily completely stunned. Karloff takes a slow sip of his tea, looking calm and composed. Karloff notes the wizard is out of seclusion and that the Academy's dean, a former pupil, hired him to teach, which Emily finds amazing. The chibi version of Emily observes that Professor Karloff seems unusually relaxed and friendly during their conversation. Karloff gestures as he mentions that there was a specific problem that needed addressing within the Academy. Karloff states that the problem he mentioned was the one Emily just solved with her sound magic. Emily asks for more details as Karloff explains that the success of the demonstration is why Professor Laney appeared happier than usual. Karloff confirms the wizard is indeed staying at the Academy to conduct his research. Karloff explains the wizard's research in monster ecology and the difficulty of students hearing the monsters, causing Emily to suggest using a sound-capturing magic stone. Karloff explains that existing magic stones either only captured human frequencies or produced grating, unusable sound for a classroom setting. Karloff credits Emily with successfully creating high-quality sound, which leaves her feeling deeply embarrassed. Karloff encourages Emily to continue researching sound magic and promises she won't be burdened with any busy work. Karloff adds that the activity will grant her conduct points and improve her resume, though he seems to be rambling on the details. Emily politely declines, explaining that since she will only be at the school for a year, building a post-graduation resume doesn't mean much to her. The chibi Emily worries about the extra workload while Karloff stares at her in a disappointed silence. Noticing her lack of interest, Karloff decides to change his approach and offer a new, more enticing incentive. Emily reacts with shock as Karloff offers to work with her personally on her research.
Karloff explains that while most wizards are protective of their ideas and funding, he intends to be different.
A large, multifaceted purple gemstone glows with an intense magical light. Karloff promises that funding from his family will be guaranteed and that he is far too busy with Academy business to steal her ideas. He tells Emily that this is a rare and tremendous opportunity for her to develop a marketable magic stone as a student.
Karloff promises to provide personal feedback and help her fix any bugs to ensure the product is high quality with a sudden, quiet slide sounding.
Emily stares at the professor, completely frozen and overwhelmed by the magnitude of his offer. Emily questions why the professor is going to such extreme lengths to help her career. Karloff admits that helping her is his way of gaining favor with high wizards and accessing advanced research equipment in the tower. Karloff says he won't ask again if she truly doesn't want to accept, but Emily quickly shouts that she will do it. Emily enthusiastically accepts the task and vows to the professor that she will give it her all. The sky turns a fiery orange as the sun sets behind the silhouette of the Academy towers. Emily runs down the hallway toward her room with a sudden energetic dash sounding. Emily runs with a bright smile, thrilled at the prospect of creating her very own magic stone. Emily remembers seeing a dark-haired girl happily holding a magic stone she made in the past. Emily reflects on how she was initially worried about her lack of schooling compared to the older graduates. Her heart races with a sudden rhythmic ba-doom sounding as she realizes Professor Karloff's help will put her ahead of the curve. Emily arrives home and greets her little yellow chick pet with a sudden, joyful hop sounding. Kira greets Emily and notices that she looks strangely embarrassed about something. Emily looks up in confusion while Kira asks what has happened to make her feel this way. Kira points toward a new piece of jewelry sitting prominently on Emily's dresser. Kira repeats her question about the piece of jewelry, pointing directly at it with curiosity. Emily explains that William bought everyone defensive accessories because their upcoming trip could be dangerous.
Sophia asks if Emily is going on the trip for fun, but Emily denies it while looking unsure.
Emily reacts with surprise when the dark-haired girl points something out to her. Emily worries that Kira won't understand their risky plan for a study guide, while Sophia suggests that just studying might be easier if the area is so dangerous. Emily explains their intent to investigate the old training grounds for the Department of Magic, prompting Sophia to ask how long ago it was active. Emily notes that the area has been shut down for a long time and is now a ruin forgotten by most of the Academy.
A floral backdrop frames the fact that the grounds were used when combat wizards and witches were common.
Sophia agrees that the history makes sense while smiling brightly.
Sophia expresses her fascination and asks Emily for the specific location of the grounds.
Emily explains that the ruins are located in a forest northeast of the main academy building. Sophia looks on with a focused and curious expression.
Emily stands ready with her group as they prepare for their investigation. William greets Emily and expresses surprise at her arrival, while she asks if today is the day everyone is heading out.
Emily reflects on how her busy class schedule made meeting up on Saturday inevitable as the group gathers.
Jake welcomes Kira and asks what brought her there, and she explains she wants to see the old training grounds and the old school magic.
Kira excitedly reveals their secret search for a legendary study guide, leaving Emily stunned that the information was shared so freely. Kira winks and justifies her honesty by noting that Sophia's performance won't affect her own rank, and they will have the guide before word spreads anyway. Emily wonders about Sophia's family background while Sophia laughs, promising to keep the secret and noting she is only there to study ancient training methods.
Kira joyfully invites Sophia to join their group so they can all travel together.
Kira looks back with a confused expression.
Sophia agrees to join them as vibrant purple flowers bloom around her.
Jake apologizes for not having enough defensive gear for Sophia, but she reassures him that her specialty in combat magic is enough.
Chibi Sophia confidently claims that a good offense is the best defense, and the boys agree they are in good hands. Sunlight filters through the dense canopy of a lush green forest. The group enters the woods and notes how rough the path is, and Emily is impressed by how quickly the boys clear the ancient trees with a sudden, forceful whoosh sounding.
Emily is amazed by Jake's speed and wonders how he can move so lightning fast despite his apparent exhaustion.
Emily's foot catches on a root with a sudden, clumsy trip sounding.
Emily nearly falls but is caught by a dark-haired boy who asks if she is all right with a sudden, heavy stumble sounding.
The boy apologizes for moving too quickly, and Emily tells him it is okay while feeling embarrassed. The boy offers to hold Emily's hand to assist her, but she politely declines his help while thanking him for his concern. He suggests she use a tree root for support instead, and Emily insists she is fine while Kira and Sophia whisper nearby. Emily reacts with confusion until she hears her yellow chick pet making a sudden, rhythmic peep and peep sounding. The dark-haired boy notes that her chick is a mana pet and likely not alive, despite its cuteness. Emily explains that the pet is a bundle of her mana that represents her character, though she isn't sure if it truly looks like her magic. Emily reacts with surprise when the boy admits he finds himself drawn to the little pet. Emily wonders to herself if the boy was implying that she looks like the little chick. They finally emerge from the woods and spot the large stone ruins of the training grounds in the distance. Sophia and Kira celebrate their arrival, glad to finally be out of the forest. The group stands before the massive, crumbling stone walls of the ancient facility. Jake tells the girls that the ruins are believed to be at least several centuries old. Sophia gazes at the structures with a look of quiet wonder. They enter the courtyard and remark on how the magic of the area makes it dark despite it being daytime with a sudden rhythmic step and step sounding. The red-haired boy notes that the haze is clearly magical, yet he cannot feel a strong mana presence. Emily and Kira discuss how such a massive open-air spell could be sustained without a noticeable mana source. Sophia suggests that a latent spell could be maintained with very little mana if it hasn't been fully activated. Emily looks concerned as she considers the implications of a hidden spell. Emily worries about the scale of the area and what kind of trigger might exist for the magic. She recalls a moment of injecting magic into a specific formula during her research. Emily continues her internal reflection, realizing they had been looking in the wrong place until Chloe gave her advice. Emily tells herself that everything should be fine since they are a large group and swordsmanship students used to visit often.
The group notices the ruins are getting darker, and while Jake says they aren't lost, Sophia says they are.
Kira screams in utter disbelief.
Eden Valenti advises the group to turn back before sunset, warning they might get trapped in the woods.
Emily worries as sunset begins. Ancient stone walls loom overhead.
Kira nervously asks if they are lost, while Jake hesitates before admitting they might be.
Kira shouts at Jake, accusing him of being completely irresponsible for losing their way. Eden Valenti reiterates that they must retreat before the sun sets to avoid getting stranded.
Emily watches the fading light. Jake frantically suggests turning back to avoid ghosts, but Kira insists on staying for the study guide.
Kira and Emily charge ahead with a sudden, energetic dash sounding as the boys discuss the oddity of magic students. Emily spots a clearing and excitedly calls for everyone to come look at the open area. The group reaches the courtyard with a sudden, relieved pew sounding while Kira celebrates finding their destination. Jake recalls getting lost here before as Kira marvels at the massive size of the training grounds.
Jake notes that despite it being midday, the area is filled with a strange haze and scattered debris.
Debris floats in the air. Jake admits his confidence is failing with a sudden, worried sounding while the others look on in silence.
Wooden shards litter the ground. Someone stumbles with a sudden, clumsy trip sounding.
Kira pouts at the messy state of the area and wonders how students used to train here. A ghostly hooded figure appears with a sudden, haunting dun sounding, causing Jake to scream in terror.
Emily and Eden Valenti look back with a sudden, sharp turn sounding.
Eden Valenti grabs Emily and pulls her to safety with a sudden, protective whoosh sounding as someone calls out.
Jake shouts for Eden while Kira asks if they have been harmed. Kira gasps in horror, noticing that Lord Volantis' shoulder has been injured during the chaos.
Emily asks if they were actually attacked, realizing the threat might be more than a simple illusion.
Eden Valenti huffs and tries to calm the group, claiming he just fell, while Emily notes the ghost was intangible.
Emily apologizes for the debris as a sudden, booming whoosh-sounding echoes nearby.
Jake panics and flails his sword, shouting for whatever is there to stay away.
Kira and Emily watch as Jake continues to flail his weapon in a state of pure terror.
A white energy blade passes by with a sudden, fast whip and whoosh sounding.
Eden Valenti blocks the blade with a stick with a sudden rhythmic clock sounding, scolding Jake for almost cutting him. Eden Valenti disarms the panicked boy with a sudden, effortless twirl southern.
Eden Valenti tells a panting Jake to calm down, while Kira mocks his extreme fear of ghosts.
Eden Valenti snatches the sword away and gives Jake a stick instead, telling him he cannot be trusted with it.
Kira tells Jake his reckless sword swinging is much scarier than any of the illusions they have seen.
Sophia blushes and apologizes to Jake while Kira laughs at his flustered reaction.
Kira asks if they are facing another illusion, and Emily confirms that they are.
Kira notes the illusions are appearing more frequently, which suggests they are close to the right location.
Jake warns that non-human creature illusions will start appearing with a sudden, piercing whoosh sounding as a ghost appears.
Jake panics and flails his stick while Kira calls out his name in utter frustration.
Emily points out that while the figures are magical, their facial expressions seem strangely lifelike.
Sophia agrees that the spirits are unsettling.
Magical interference fills the air. A massive black shadow looms over the ruins with a sudden, ominous creak sounding.
The group stares up in terror with a sudden violent rattle sounding as the shadow towers over them. An explosion rocks the ruins with a sudden thunderous bang sounding as someone screams for everyone to run.
Jake realizes the monster is real because it is destroying the walls, and he frantically questions why they are running.
The group comes to a sudden, forced halt sounding as Kira stares at a new horror ahead.
Countless pale, shadowy arms reach out from the darkness with a sudden, grasping whoosh sounding.
Kira collapses to the ground with a sudden heavy plop sounding while staring at the impossible sight. An ominous entity lunges forward with a sudden aggressive whoosh sounding. A shadowy figure shifts with a sudden rattling turn sounding and an exclamation of shock. The massive monster looms over the group with a sudden terrifying whoosh sounding. An oppressive darkness settles over the ruins. The beast shrieks with a sudden piercing whoosh sounding and an exclamation of shock. The monstrous shadow unleashes a sudden violent whoosh sounding upon the group.
A heavy tension fills the air. Eden Valenti makes a sudden, determined dash sounding toward the Prat.
Eden Valenti stares down the entity with a cold and focused expression. Eden Valenti moves with a sudden, blurred whoosh sounding. Emily and Sophia react with a sudden, gasping shock sounding as the creature vanishes. The group gathers together with a sudden, relieved whoosh sounding, expressing their amazement at surviving the encounter. The students question if the massive beast was merely a realistic illusion. Jake pants heavily and notes how the illusions are becoming increasingly strange and unsettling. Kira complains about the nasty illusions and admits she was too terrified to even scream. William and Sophia discuss their exhaustion, with Sophia wishing she could navigate the ruins blindfolded.
Emily scratches her head and expresses her frustration over the lack of time to understand the complex spell.
Eden Valenti remains stoic and silent while assessing the area. Eden Valenti prepares to break a wall with a sudden, sharp remove sounding, but a companion warns him that it could make things worse. Jake trembles and coughs with a sudden, dry cough sounding, though Sophia notes that he seems to be the most worried among them.
Emily points toward a distant structure and questions if it is actually real this time.
Chibi Sophia skips happily with a sudden, melodic hee-hee sounding, while a skeptical Jake reminds her that he was right about the escalating illusions. William squints through the haze and notes that he can definitely see something in the distance. The group agrees to investigate the new discovery immediately.
Everyone runs toward the ruins with a sudden rhythmic pant and pant sounding to avoid any more illusions.
Sunlight bathes a beautiful sanctuary featuring a statue of a winged goddess.
Emily and Sophia are amazed to find the altar and a golden box with a sudden surprised wow sounding. Jake smiles with relief that the item is still there, while a chibi Sophia giggles and thanks him for his help.
The group looks up at the massive statue, remarking on its unexpected grandeur and beauty.
Sophia identifies the figure as the goddess Matnail, surprising Emily with her specific knowledge.
Sophia explains that Matnail is the goddess of justice and balance whose followers have dwindled over time. Eden Valenti recalls visiting a similar temple in the past. Emily suddenly realizes that the place they previously visited must have been a temple dedicated to Matnail.
Emily reacts with shock while Eden Valenti calmly confirms her realization.
The group shares a moment of lighthearted realization with a sudden, quiet, silent scream and kikiki sounding.
Emily clears her throat and asks Sophia how she managed to learn so much about the ancient gods.
Sophia explains that her family's merchant background involves donating to many shrines to maintain a good image.
Sophia excitedly prepares a gift for her friends with a sudden, quick whip sounding.
Shimmering flowers surround a moment of celebration. William is impressed when Sophia reveals gift certificates for her family's corporation as a thank you gift.
Sophia reveals her sister Layla's name and invites everyone to visit her family's shop in town.
Chibi versions of the group express their gratitude to Sophia with a sudden, happy flap and flap sounding.
The celebration continues as the friends express their excitement to use their new gifts.
Sophia reacts with a sudden, curious flap sounding as she wonders why her friend is acting strangely.
Emily wonders how to enter the structure and regrets not being more skilled in concealment magic.
Kira looks on with a thoughtful expression.
Kira suggests the area's magic feels like water magic, catching the rest of the group by surprise.
Sophia considers the possibility that water magic was used to create the physical walls and the surrounding fog.
Emily agrees that combining magic for efficiency makes sense, noting her own previous misconceptions about the haze.
William and Jake realize the chill in the air was likely a result of the water magic rather than ghosts.
Kira explains that she has been reflecting on the combat applications of ice spells within ancient water magic.
Chibi Sophia is amazed that Kira remembers a detail mentioned only once in passing.
Emily suggests they quickly locate the magic absorption stone connected to the wall so Sophia can drain its mana. Kira expresses doubt, noting the wall might be made of cold minerals rather than water magic.
A hand ignites with a sudden, searing flare sounding.
Kira prepares to test the wall's durability with her fire, catching the others off guard.
Emily worries that Kira's plan is incredibly reckless, despite its persuasive logic.
Sophia enthusiastically agrees to the plan and prepares to help.
Kira unleashes her fire magic against the wall with a sudden, powerful vroom sounding.
Liquid begins to run down the melting surface with a sudden, rhythmic drip sounding.
The group celebrates their success until a mysterious, dark presence named Escalante manifests.
A wide-eyed stare conveys utter shock at the unexpected turn of events.
The ground shakes with a sudden, thunderous rumble and whoosh sounding as someone screams for the group to escape.
Eden Valenti orders Kira to run as the danger intensifies.
A dark shadow lashes out with a sudden, sharp whip sounding.
Emily is suddenly ensnared and lifted into the air.
Eden Valenti reacts with a sudden, startled gasp sounding as the situation spirals out of control.
Eden Valenti draws his weapon with a sudden, metallic shing sounding.
Eden Valenti strikes at the shadow with a sudden, heavy whoosh and swing sounding.
The blade cuts through the dark entity with a sudden, clean slice sounding.
An ominous voice demands that the swordsman step aside. Chaos erupts with a sudden, violent crack and do-done sounding as the group screams for Lord Valenti.
Emily desperately realizes she must use wind magic before Eden falls.
Emily is suddenly yanked away with a sudden, aggressive whip sounding.
William grits his teeth in frustration with a sudden, pained arg and clench sounding.
The structure collapses with a sudden, terrifying rumble sounding as the students warn each other to be careful.
The group cries out in despair with a sudden, sharp crack sounding as Emily disappears from view.
A hand trembles against the cold surface.
Kira watches the destruction with a grim and pained expression.
An object falls into the abyss with a sudden, echoing plunk sounding.
Kira collapses to the ground in grief, wishing she had acted differently.
Sophia tries to comfort her friend, taking responsibility for encouraging the dangerous plan.
William frantically wonders what their next move should be while Eden remains stoic.
Eden Valenti pushes past the others and charges forward. Eden Valenti strikes the barrier with a sudden, echoing shoom and clank sounding.
The sword blade fractures against the wall with a sudden, sharp crack and clack sounding.
The students realize physical force is useless against the magical wall, marveling at the sheer intensity of Lord Valenti's effort.
Eden Valenti growls that they are running out of time with a sudden, low grr sounding.
A hand reaches out to steady Eden, telling him he needs to calm down. William supports Eden as they prepare to find another way. William offers Eden his own sword, insisting that the wall is their only concern.
Chibi, William, and Sophia grumble about the broken brand new sword with a sudden, frustrated grr sounding.
Kira and Sophia regroup with determined looks.
Sophia asks for more details regarding the mana absorption stone method they discussed. Kira explains that Sophia must recognize the patterns of the stones used in commercial magic.
Kira recalls how Emily identified a similar mana circuit to help them escape a trap in the past.
Sophia realizes that the current challenge is far more complex than she initially anticipated.
The group resolves to find the necessary pattern immediately.
Dark blossoms stand out against a star-filled sky.
Emily, held by shadowy vines, fears she has been transported to another world.
Emily steps on a rippling surface with a sudden rhythmic step and slide sounding and wonders if she has been captured.
A woman with purple hair greets Emily while Escalante appears and then vanishes with a sudden light poof sounding.
Emily realizes the scene is an illusion while the woman is welcomed as Escalante by an unknown entity.
Escalante smiles despite his bloody face and greets the figure he calls Matnail.
Emily is stunned while Escalante explains why he wants to call the mana doll Matnail.
The woman accepts the name Matnail and asks if he found any mana to absorb.
A thoughtful silence follows her question.
Escalante claims the sacrifice was his choice, while Matnail warns him about the stress on his body.
Matnail notes that his role as a distinguished wizard is necessary, while Escalante argues it wasn't a real choice.
Escalante moves closer to Matnail with a sudden, intimate lean sounding.
Escalante notes that it is strange for his creation to have so many questions.
Matnail explains that being born from magic byproducts allows her to occasionally go against orders.
McNail adds that she reflects her owner's mood, leaving Escalante confused.
Escalante laughs with a sudden, hearty bwaha sounding and asks to see the box.
Matnail complies with a sudden, mystical whoosh sobbing. She holds the golden box carefully.
The box emits a radiant light, causing Emily to wonder about its contents.
Emily recognizes the golden box from the altar and questions if any mana remains. Matnail reports that wizards are abandoning the battlefield, which Escalante finds unsurprising.
Escalante reaches for the box with a sudden, quiet slide sounding.
Matnail mentions that elite wizards could absorb the mana with a sudden, faint whoosh sounding.
Escalante smiles and says the war is almost over.
A magical distortion appears with a sudden, faint ripple sounding.
Escalante coughs up blood with a sudden, wet cough sounding and pained groans. Emily reacts with horror as the wizard suffers.
Escalante reveals he was just kidding with a sudden, playful hee-hee sounding.
Escalante boasts about his massive and endless mana circle.
He jokes about repeating the process while Matnail stares at him.
Emily realizes the clarity of the magic proves it is not a normal illusion. Emily reflects on how Escalante was pressured into his role as a famous genius.
Escalante tells Matnail not to be upset, claiming he isn't a helpless pawn.
The blue-haired wizard looks up thoughtfully.
He asks Matnail about the color of the sky with a sudden, quiet plunk sounding as she identifies it as red.
Emily notes the sky is red from destructive magic, while Escalante admits it was a silly question.
A flashback reveals a young Escalante reading that the sky was once blue like his hair. The young boy's eyes widened in amazement.
He describes the clouds as puffs of white cotton.
A caption mentions his destiny to return color to the world, though Matnail remains skeptical.
Matnail looks down at Escalante as he lies on the ground with a sudden, quiet blank sounding.
Escalante wishes for a sky free of monsters with a sudden, soft swish sounding.
He moves with a sudden, quick whip sounding.
He tells Matnail to sit back and watch.
Matnail agrees, and Escalante says he wants her to see the blue sky. He claims he created a space to make the impossible possible.
The world begins to shatter with a sudden, loud crack sounder.
Narration explains she will stay alive in this microcosm using filled mana absorption stones.
Escalante smiles as mana is automatically injected.
Matnail wonders why he is doing all of this.
Escalante flexes and says he wants her to live to tell everyone he was a genius.
Chibi Matnail stares as Escalante declares her existence is proof of his glory.
Matnail hopes that the wizard will eventually find a reason to smile.
She says her farewell and departs with a sudden, wet cough sounding. Her expression remains silent and deeply thoughtful.
She struggles to maintain her composure despite her worsening condition.
The massive crystal wall vibrates with a sudden, sharp crack sounding as the students watch in awe.
Kira is startled by a sudden, painful arg sounding and frantically asks what is happening.
A look of sudden realization crosses her face.
She determines that she must investigate the situation for herself.
She charges toward the crystal structure with a sudden, swift dash sounding. She confirms that her suspicions regarding the structure were correct.
Her determination hardens as her vision begins to blur and dissolves. A horrific vision of war and monstrous silhouettes appears before her.
Terrifying creatures roam across a battlefield engulfed in raging flames.
The world is blinded by a sudden, blinding flash, sounding as a lone wizard stands his ground against the chaos.
Kira reels from a sudden, loud crash sounding while witnessing the destruction.
Violent energy and red lightning crackle through the atmosphere.
Escalante reaches out with a bloodied hand and an intense gaze. Narration explains that a mana doll loses all emotion and motivation once it is without an owner.
Matnail reflects on her fate of becoming less human over time.
Escalante unleashes his full power in a desperate and massive display of magic.
He screams in agony with a sudden, sharp splash sounding as he pushes his body past its limits.
Matnail observes how he lost his reasoning as he approached his breaking point.
The scene returns to the present as voices call out Kira's name under a bright sky.
A glowing artifact is revealed, hidden beneath thick vines.
Sophia and Kira celebrate after finally locating the mana absorption stone.
They realize they can dismantle the barrier by depleting the mana stored within the stone.
A sense of heat and lingering destruction remains in the hazy distance.
The barrier vanishes with a sudden, soft shimmer sounding. Kira finds herself in a dark space filled with purple roses and realizes it was all an illusion.
She turns and calls out for Escalante.
Matniel appears, making Kira wonder if she is witnessing a memory.
A magical strike lashes out with a sudden, sharp whip sounding as Matnell refuses to be fooled.
Shadowy vines seize Kira with a sudden, loud whoosh sounding. Kira desperately protests that there has been a mistake and she knows nothing of Escalante.
Matniel questions if she is being tricked while the wizard's trial continues to unfold. McNeil commands Kira to place her hand on the box as the girl resists.
The vines pull her forward with a sudden, firm grab sounding. Fear fills Kira's eyes as she is forced to comply.
Manal forces Kira's hand into the golden box with a sudden, tight squeeze sounding.
A magical assessment reveals Kira's attributes as wind and light with substandard mana.
The trial deems Kira unqualified and prepares to transfer her mana to a more suitable host.
Kira fights against her restraints with a sudden, sharp flail sounding.
She pleads for Matnell to listen while the golden box shimmers intensely. Magic erupts from Kira's body with a sudden, loud whoosh sounding. Kira realizes that the wizard was absorbing entire mana reserves from others. She sees a fleeting memory of a bloodied, smiling boy.
She understands the reckless toll that such magic took on his body.
Kira pieces together the truth about the war draft and the trial's real purpose. She screams for Matnell to stop, declaring that she wants to remain a witch.
A somber memory of a man and woman reflects the heavy weight of the past.
Kira cries out for her parents in a moment of deep regret. Matnell holds the golden box as it begins to glow with a sudden metallic clack sounding. A radiant light envelops Matnell with a sudden, powerful whoosh sounding.
Matnell stops abruptly with a sudden, sharp halt sounding and expresses surprise upon noticing Kira.
Matnael questions Kira's identity while noting the unusual nature of her attire.
Kira desperately begs for her mana to be returned while Matnell identifies her as a witch.
Tears fall from Kira's eyes with a sudden, quiet drip sounding as she realizes Matnael has already received her power.
Kira is confused because she believed her mana was being restored by the wizard Escalante. Matnell realizes the golden box is full and assumes the transfer happened while Kira was unconscious, though Kira clarifies she never intended to participate in the trial.
Kira insists there has been a massive misunderstanding and that she never wanted to give up her mana, but Matnell claims the process is irreversible.
Matnell offers Kira two dangerous choices: reabsorb the mana despite the risks to her body, or destroy Matnell to reclaim the power. Kira is paralyzed by the impossible choice presented by the mana doll. Matnell warns that Kira's empty body cannot handle a sudden surge of mana, and asks how she came to possess Escalante's power as well. Kira attempts to respond as the ground beneath them begins to tremble with a sudden heavy rumble sounding. The surrounding space begins to break apart with a sudden violent shatter sounding as Kira screams in terror.
Matnell realizes that the barrier's destruction is causing the absorption stone to fail.
Kira feels a surge of hope, believing her friends have found a way to save her.
Matnael claims the destruction is for the best, leaving Kira bewildered.
Matnell explains that her very existence is tied to the barrier and will vanish once it falls.
With a look of quiet resignation, Matnael tells Kira she can reclaim her mana at that moment.
Kira is horrified by the prospect of the mana doll's death.
Kira questions Matnell's calmness in the face of her impending destruction. Matnell dismisses the concern, stating that she was never truly alive to begin with.
Kira recalls the memories she witnessed of Matnael and the blue-haired wizard.
Matnell confirms that those were real memories and explains that she is merely a manifestation of magic and lost consciousness.
Kira points out that Escalante wanted Matnael to live on.
Matnell clenches her hand with a sudden, tight clench sounding and argues that his wish was selfish as she should have vanished alongside her creator.
The world continues to fragment with a sudden, loud crack sounding as Matnell warns that the end is near. Matnell notes that the total collapse will start soon and offers to help Kira escape the crumbling void.
The space completely disintegrates with a sudden, chaotic shatter sounding.
Matnell instructs Kira to locate the golden box on the altar once she returns to reality.
Kira squeezes Matnell's hand with a sudden, firm squeeze sounding and promises to return once she stops her friends from destroying the barrier. Matnell expresses her fatigue and admits she is grateful to finally meet her end while still conscious of herself. Kira reaches out and firmly grabs Matnell's arm as they are surrounded by rising light. Kira shouts that Matnell cannot give up yet because she has never seen the real sky.
Kira pulls the mana doll forward as they run through the blinding, swirling energy.
Kira tells Matnell that her long wait was the only reason she remained ignorant of the world.
The two fall through a sea of glass shards toward a bright opening.
They charge toward a massive, radiant gateway of light. A blinding flash consumes the dark void.
A beautiful blue sky with soft white clouds is revealed through the remaining cracks.
Kira and Matnale look up in wonder at the sun-drenched horizon.
Kira looks at Matnal as a field of white flowers begins to manifest around them.
A fleeting vision of the blue-haired wizard appears. Kira and Matnale stand together as glowing petals drift through the air.
Kira cries out in joy as the scene is washed in a warm, white light.
Matnale's eyes fill with a newfound sense of peace and light. Kira stands bathed in the golden radiance of the true world. A hand reaches upward toward a vast sky filled with floating gems and soft clouds.
William leads the students in a triumphant cheer as they celebrate their victory under the open sky.
Kira beams with poise.
The sky clears over the academy.
A sudden, powerful whoosh sounding erupts while the silver-haired man struggles with his paperwork as an old woman casts magic behind him. The white-haired boy yawns while reading a report. Sophia notices a faint glow.
She realizes her mana has returned.
Sophia alerts her companions.
The two wizards stare in disbelief.
Narration explains the training grounds were once a brutal battlefield where witches and wizards left ghostly afterimages. The group learns that unstable mana created space-time cracks, trapping memories of terrified soldiers in a loop.
Kira expresses her shock at the horrific consequences of rogue mana.
Sophia notes that the visions were far too realistic to be anything other than genuine, painful memories.
The red-haired boy reflects on the brutality of the historical conflict they witnessed.
He points out that the branch Kira found was out of place in the ruins, suggesting it was part of an illusion.
Kira agrees, admitting she hadn't questioned the presence of branches on the training grounds.
Sophia deduces that the branch was actually an afterimage of a magic staff used long ago.
The narration confirms the object was likely a remnant of the war separated from its owner.
A pensive silence falls over the woods. Sophia's eyes well up with a sudden, quiet sob sounding.
Sophia tearfully embraces Kira, feeling guilty that her friend had to face the traumatic truth and mana drainage alone.
Kira comforts her by saying they are safe now, while the group mentions how Valenti was desperately searching for her.
Valenti admits he panicked and nearly lost control of his power, but Kira thanks him and Sophia for their efforts.
The brown-haired boy laments that he has only shown his violent side lately, though the group finds the truth about the ghosts more shocking.
A sudden, frustrated sounding comes from Sophia as she complains about the horrific draft test they discovered.
The boy apologizes for the misunderstanding regarding the study guide, but Sophia assures him it's fine with a sudden, weary sounding.
A sudden, apologetic sob sounding escapes the merchant's son as he promises a great discount at his store to make amends.
The red-haired student realizes he has a gift certificate he wants to use.
He shows off a protection magic stone ring, hoping for something heavy-duty from the Layla Corporation.
He examines the ring while wondering if he can find a better version.
Kira looks on as he questions if the current magic stone is defective.
He protests that he paid full price at Himalaya Magic Supplies while Sophia questions the brand.
Sophia explains that the stone isn't for defense, but rather to protect against minor illnesses like the common cold.
The boy is stunned to learn he bought a lifestyle accessory because he thought the design looked cool.
Sophia laughs and says they won't be catching colds, prompting a sudden, cheerful ha-ha sounding from the group.
Kira excitedly announces that the swordsmanship building is finally in sight. The students celebrate the end of their arduous journey with a sudden, happy ha-ha sounding while thinking of dinner.
A sudden, energetic yay sounding accompanies the group's stampede toward the building as Kira and Valenti linger behind.
Valenti asks Emily if she is feeling all right after everything they went through.
Flowers bloom in the evening light.
Valenti reflects on the destruction he almost caused in his desperation.
Kira checks on him, worried that he overexerted himself and injured his shoulder during the rescue.
Valenti reassures her that he is completely fine thanks to her expert care.
Kira expresses her relief as they stand together.
A quiet, heavy moment passes between them.
They both blush while standing in the quiet forest.
They both try to speak at once and then politely offer the floor to the other.
Kira decides to let him go first, thinking that everyone is too tired for a long conversation anyway.
Valenti asks if she has a free day after exams, surprised to learn she is staying on campus instead of going home.
He offers to show her around the academy and take her to the upcoming festival. Kira reacts with a sudden, warm blush sounding as she considers the invitation.
Kira's eyes widen as she realizes that Valenti was sharing her exact thoughts in that moment.
Kira decides that there is no longer any reason to feel anxious about the current situation.
A decorative blue card is presented as someone expresses excitement about an upcoming plan.
Kira beams while holding the invitation, thrilled by the idea of visiting Sophia's store together and unable to hide her joy.
Valenti promises to guide Kira to ensure she picks the right products so she doesn't end up like William, because nobody wants to accidentally buy a cold prevention ring instead of a shield.
A fluffy yellow creature looks on with a sudden, puzzled sounding.
Several fluffy manipets erupt into the air with sudden, chaotic screech, flap, and peep soundings, while Kira questions why they appeared so suddenly.
A hand reaches out with a sudden, purposeful reach sounding.
A manipet settles into Valenti's palm with a sudden, soft flop sounding as he marvels at its warm, lifelike texture, while Kira gives it a sudden, gentle rub sounding.
Lush purple flowers in soft light.
The golden manipet is held gently as someone remarks that the creature is absolutely adorable. Kira blushes as a sudden, light, sounding of amusement escapes her.
A manipet vanishes with a sudden, swift whoosh, sounding as Kira silently hopes Valenti is unaware that the creatures mirror their owner's emotions.
Professor Violet appears with a sudden, startled ack sounding from the group as she demands to know their whereabouts.
The professor lectures the group on the risks they took, but decides not to issue demerits since they returned before the curfew.
Grand Hall under glowing chandeliers. Kira sits on her dormitory bed and reflects on her return to the familiar room. Sophia brushes her hair and jokingly warns that a repeat of their absence would lead to endless nagging from Professor Violet. A blonde student named Emily notes that the professor's anger was more intense this time compared to their previous encounter.
Emily suddenly remembers an assignment and excuses herself to return to her own room, leaving Kira surprised.
An unspoken concern hangs in the air as someone wonders if Kira will truly be okay. Emily offers a reassuring smile, explaining that the professor already healed her, though a lingering worry remains.
Heavy clack sounding of a gore.
Sophia explains that the magical barrier was so strong they could only focus on finding its control mechanism.
Kira expresses her deep gratitude to Sophia for the help, acknowledging how difficult the situation was for everyone involved.
Sophia dismisses the thanks, stating that their actions were only what any friend would have done.
Sophia admits she felt guilty because she noticed Kira was struggling and felt responsible for leading them into danger for a mere study guide. Kira reassures her friend that she holds no hard feelings and was simply shocked by the truth behind the illusions.
A silhouette of Sophia reflects her shock as Kira thinks about how she must choose her words carefully to avoid causing more guilt regarding the barrier and Escalante.
Sophia recalls a past moment where Kira seemed hesitant to join the group and hid in her necklace with a sudden, loud wah sounding.
Sophia is stunned and asks if Kira was truly unaware of what was happening.
Kira feigns ignorance, claiming she likely doesn't remember because she doesn't know as much about jewelry as her friend.
Sophia remains skeptical, arguing that the specific accessory was far too unique to be overlooked by anyone.
Sophia describes the antique necklace as having a brilliant red jewel set within a distinctive gold frame.
Emily dismisses the concern about Kira's recent behavior, noting that she has been busy studying for exams lately.
Sophia lets out a sudden, emotional sniffle, sounding and expresses her deep happiness with their current friendship. Sophia gives Emily a sudden, tight hug, sounding and praises her natural ability to put people at ease. Starry night over quiet leaves. Academy building stands silent at that. A voice from the shadows questions what someone could possibly want at such a late hour.
White streaks across a blue background.